All right, man. So here we go.
Sure.
All right. So, uh, first of all, I think I'll kind of. Why don't we give an idea of who we're talking to here? So, if you had to guess, about how many books would you say you go through in a month?
Oh, geez, it depends on what I'm doing, but probably minimum three. Unless it's audio, then it's as many as I can afford.
Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about is
Yeah.
is audio because
If it's audiobooks,
um,
as many as I can get in.
okay, so you don't even know what that number is. It's just
No.
a
And I
ton.
do a lot of re-listens because I
Oh
really
yeah.
enjoy the stories, so I'll queue it up and start listening again.
Okay, and then so for anybody listening, you drive a truck for a living.
Yeah.
You spend a
Yeah.
lot of time on the road.
Oh yeah.
I I think a lot of my readers drive a truck.
Yeah.
I wonder if I would love to see a cross section of
Oh, I'm pretty
who,
sure there's a
who
ton
the
of us.
listeners are. I
Yeah.
would love to see what percentage of our listeners are truck drivers or do some job that requires transit. You know?
Yeah. Well, I know there's a lot of people they do it with that are commuting because they got that like hour and a half commute. Like I feel sorry for those people because I'll be blowing through that town in traffic and I'll look at them and go, "You do this daily? I'd be chewing on a bullet. There's no way."
Well, I think that audiobooks help
Yeah.
to cope with that because
Oh yeah.
I'm one of those people. I drive 50 miles one way
Oh
every
wow.
day, and there's not too much traffic
Yeah.
because I don't take freeways into the office.
Yeah.
I've got this scenic path that goes over a
Oh
mountain,
nice.
so it looks pretty, and there's probably no point at which I'm going below 50 miles an hour on
Okay.
the drive in.
Yeah.
Which you do kilometers up in Canada,
Yeah.
don't you?
Yeah. The
Okay,
commie.
so
It's the
that
commie unit.
so I think that's like 50
80.
miles an hour. That's like 360 kilometers or something per hour. So
It's 80.
whatever.
Yeah.
Look, I'm American. We don't do math here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Heaven forbid
nah.
you had a system that's built on the base of 10.
You know what? That the funny thing about that is for uh, I prefer metric. I like working in metric a lot more, except for when I'm dealing with distance
Yeah.
because
What?
I've
How many feet in a mile? 5,000 something?
5,280.
Yeah. See, kilometer, 1,000 meters. Wow, that's real hard for me to figure
Oh
out.
no, I know. Yeah, absolutely. When I was building guitars,
Yeah.
the first thing I learned was go metric
Yeah.
because when you're laying out frets on a fingerboard, when you have like a meter stick, it is so much easier to find the next millimeter
Yeah.
than it is to find like 64 thousandth.
Oh man,
Yeah,
that's when you're getting out the slide rule and the little caliper.
Oh,
Okay, there it is. Yep.
well, yeah. Basically, yes. You would have to use a vernier caliper to lay it out, unless you had some sort of rule with just insane marking on it.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh wow, okay, I can get plenty of precision, and it's just a standard measuring device. I don't have to get any special tools. I guess I'll go metric.
Yeah.
But I have miles ingrained into my head so much that it's
Yeah.
so hard for me to understand what a kilometer is when
And
when I have to travel somewhere.
I'm a product of both because when I was going through school, we were learning like feet and inches and all that. And I
Yeah.
think it was around grade 2, grade 3, they switched Canada over to metric. So then I had to learn metric. So I kind of know the old and I know the new.
Yeah.
And now that I drive truck and I go into the States, I'm paid by the mile, not the kilometer. So I have to know the miles.
Oh, good, good. Okay, I see. When you switched over to metric, we're gonna do this a bit. Sometimes I go off topic.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
that's okay.
when you switched over to metric, was there was it hard for you guys to adapt when you were picking up metric?
The first little bit, I remember when I was a kid, I remember people were buying these things for their cars for their speedometer. There were little stickers that they had to put on the glass of the speedometer because all the speedometers of the cars at the time were in miles per hour.
they
So
didn't
they had
have
the
both.
no, not at that time. We're talking 73, 74. So all the cars were made in the States and Canada and they all came
Yeah.
exactly the same miles per hour.
Interesting. Well, I mean, they've always had kilometers on the speedo when I was ever since I
Yeah,
was a kid. But I was born
yeah.
in '78 too, so
Oh,
you've
okay. Well, I
you've
got
got a
10
few
years.
years on me.
Yeah, I got 10 years on
Yeah,
you. So,
yeah. I do remember being a kid. They kept talking about metric. Oh, we're going to metric. And there was always this tremendous pushback to it,
yeah, I don't know
and I
why.
never understood why. It doesn't make sense. It's actually easier to deal with. I mean,
Because it's the freedom
con-
unit.
oh man, converting is so easy. It's you just move a
Yeah.
decimal point
Oh,
over.
yeah,
Honest
that's
to
it.
God.
Well, if you
Yeah,
go
but
to
well,
Arizona, I-19, it's in kilometers.
okay. So the Arizonians
Yeah.
managed to pull their heads out of their
Just
asses.
just one interstate. You go from I-19 off of I-10 from, I think it's Phoenix, is it? Down to Nogales, and it's all in kilometers. Like the exit numbers, everything are in kilometers.
Well, you know what? Arizona also doesn't do the whole daylight saving time thing.
Mm-mm.
So they might just be smarter than the rest of us.
Yeah. That always messed me up because it'd be like, okay, you got a delivery here. The worst was Indiana because it was like a diagonal line. They've changed it since this, but it used to be in the summer, they were the same time as Eastern. Wintertime, they were an hour behind you. So you always had to remember, okay, what time of year is it? Where am I going? Okay, yep. Okay, they're an hour behind me.
Sounds like a lot of shit to jockey while you're just trying
Oh
to get
yeah.
a load somewhere.
Yeah, it's no yeah. But hey, makes it interesting.
So let me ask you something, man. When you you've got a number of books that you've finished or you've
Yeah.
re-listened to, and you got a credit now burning a hole through your pocket. So what do you do? How do you make your next choice? What are you looking for?
I'll either ask in the comments, like I'll go to Facebook and go, "Hey, I got a credit. I don't know what to get,"
Mm.
and I'll see what people say. That's how I found you.
Oh.
People started talking about commune. I was like, okay, I'll give it a listen. And yeah, well, there was 4 credits gone in about a heartbeat. And what else was there? I get recommendations off of Amazon. That's how I found Craig for X Force. I
Oh, so
just,
you listen to those.
yeah,
When Amazon said, "Hey, maybe you try this book," you
yeah.
try that out. You actually listen to that.
I was listening to, they've made it now a trilogy, but it was called Black Fleet. I can't remember who writes it. I forgot who writes it now. But it's about Earth in the future when they get attacked. And they've got like they've got their own ships, and it's about this commander of a ship. They're like the black sheep of the family, and that's why it's called the Black Fleet. They're kind of like
Mm-hmm.
the cast-offs, and Earth gets or their fleet gets attacked, and his ship's the only one that survives because it's so old. And anyways, I did that, and I finished that, and up came X Force. I was like, I read the thing. I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. And yeah, as you can see on my shirt, I'm a
he's
Skippy fanatic.
he's wearing a UNEF shirt.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. So, okay, and
I'll flip
well,
through too. I'll go into
well, no,
sci-fi and I'll take a look.
I guess I'm asking you to speak for some of your friends though too. But
Yeah.
can I ask? I'm guessing you've got plenty of other friends that are in the same business that you are.
Yeah, kind of.
And
When you're in the, I don't know about the rest of the drivers, but the reason I drive truck is I'm not a big people person.
oh, okay,
I kind of like being alone. Like I go for quality over quantity and friends.
yes,
So I've got like 3 or 4 good friends. They know I drive truck, and when I'm in town, I'll call them up and go, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like my one buddy,
mm-hmm,
he's currently on vacation. He works at Toyota here at the one plant. He's a operations manager.
mm.
He's off for the week and he's redoing his basement. So I went over and I was helping him out a bit. But yeah, most of the time I'm just in the truck and I'm just let me do my thing. Let me just have fun.
I think I'm kind of the same way. I
Yeah.
think it is kind of a quantity or sorry, quality over quantity
Yeah.
thing. It seems like I need a small handful of really close people,
Yeah.
and then everybody else, yeah, you can kind of just
Yeah.
let them go.
But I've tried to
But
get them into the audiobooks and a lot of them just don't get it because they don't do a lot of driving.
oh, okay.
So
So there's not a lot of people then that you chat with that are doing the same kind of distance you are, or
on Facebook, yes. In real
ah,
life, no. No. Like
okay.
everybody knows I'm crazy for it because my pickup truck's got all the stuff on the back of it, the back of the truck. Heck,
Yeah.
I even got cod mittens from Richard Fox, The Ember Wars on the back there. So
Cod mittens. Okay.
yeah, he's
You're
got
you're
got meat oons, and
okay.
in
You're
one of the
you're
books,
you're gonna go into places where
yeah,
I don't know, but that's okay. That's cool.
yeah. No, he's just got a saying in there that it's a ship thing. It's called "Got meat oons." They say it as a battle cry, and they meet this alien race who think it's cod mittens,
Oh,
and
nice.
it's hilarious. So I was like, you know what? If I ever, I was thinking about doing something for it, and I put it on the back window of my pickup truck, and it's a blast because I'll see people. I'll watch my rearview mirror at lights, and I'll see them pointing, and I'll see them say cod mittens, and they'll get their phone out and they'll start googling it because they don't know what it is.
Man, maybe they're finding the book series that way.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping.
Free advertising.
Yeah,
That's great. So well, the reason I'm prodding about
yeah.
other people that you know in the business was I'm wondering if your practice of finding a new book is similar to what they do. I mean, is it usually people just chatting word of mouth in Facebook groups? Is it the marketing on Amazon that's actually helping to get the story out there?
I would say
I
for me, it's both.
Yeah, I think a lot of writers struggle with that. I think they have a hard time trying to figure out where to put their efforts
Yeah.
as far as well, I mean, it was like this for me when I started before Bob had recorded the first book.
Yeah.
I was basically unknown, and it was trying to get anybody to read my stuff was like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
So for a little bit, I kind of experimented with online advertising, not having any idea what I was doing at all. Right. So I put a few bucks into what was it? Oh, Facebook. Just
Oh yeah.
put a little ad up
Yeah.
that and that resulted in zero sales. So that was
Oh
money.
man.
That was money well wasted. Well,
Yep.
it's because how many things do you actually click through on when you see an
Oh,
ad on Facebook? It's
I
like you half the
I
time
think
I'm
we're
hiding them.
inundated. We're inundated with so much of that. You kind of learn to
Yeah.
block it out. You don't even see it anymore. Like,
Well, now what I'm kind of noticing is the ads that they put up on Facebook or the ads that they put up on Twitter.
yeah.
It's almost like they're disguising them now to make it look like just another post from
I
one of
had
the
that.
people that you follow in your feed, and it's like you motherfuckers,
Yeah. Instagram
you
did
got
that to
me.
me. Yeah,
Yeah,
Instagram did that to me. I saw something. I was like, I first thought it was a buddy of mine had posted something, so I clicked on it, and then I
yeah,
realized
yeah,
that was an
exactly.
ad. So I went back and I clicked on the thing that hide this, and it asks you why, and it's like irrelevant.
Be, yeah, I wish that they had more choices than irrelevant,
Yeah.
offensive. It's like I want one selection to be insulting.
Yes.
This is insulting to my intelligence, you fuckers.
Thanks
you
for
know?
making me click that. It worked.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot, Dick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that was I noticed.
It's also with the narrator because a lot of
Oh
my books,
yeah,
a lot of my books are
absolutely.
R.C. Bray, Luke Daniels, and oh, I forgot his name now because it's been a while since I've listened to anything. Um I can't remember his name, but yeah, if it's any of those three,
Well,
I'll
there's
definitely grab the book.
there's the top tier, right? So it's like Ray
Yeah,
Porter, R.C.
that's it. Ray
Bray.
Porter.
Yeah, yeah. Then there's oh crap. Well, yeah, I think Daniels is a big one. A
Yeah.
lot of people seem to enjoy Will Wheaton. Uh,
Eh,
and I think well, no, you know what? I
I
like
didn't.
Will.
I didn't mind Ready Player One. It was okay. He did a good job.
Yeah.
But I want to start a petition that since he's redone The Martian, we should get R.C. Bray to redo Ready Player One.
Oh, that that's cute, but honestly, that
I'll get The
I
Martian from him just to see what it's like, just to see the difference.
you know what I went and I listened to the sample of it
Yeah,
on Audible just because I was curious. I
yeah,
think he does a fine job.
yeah,
Uh, it's hard. Uh, a lot of people, well, so many of us fell in love with The Martian because of R.C. Bray's
yeah,
performance.
yeah,
And if I'm being truthful, his performance elevates the material. because if I had to read that book, just the text,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd have stuck with it the same way I would have with the
Yeah.
audio, because Bray's performance really humanizes the character. Whereas,
Yeah.
and the other
Cause
thing was, I felt like I could follow along with the story because I'm an engineer, right? So
yeah.
when Watney is talking about uh, limiting voltage to his drill in the story, and he's got to put all these resistors in line
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to get the voltage. So I'm listening to that, and he's talking about all of these technical aspects of surviving on Mars, and I have a really good idea of everything he's talking about
Yeah.
when he's talking about the process to render hydrazine down to water.
Yeah.
I know how that works, so I can follow along.
Huh.
But I'm trying to picture people who don't have that technical background
Reading it. Yeah.
keeping up with just this laundry list of uh, basically a troubleshooting exercise that an engineer's following. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking,
You know
man,
what? That is true. I never thought of it that way.
and I just thought, boy, if Bob hadn't been there to put some heart and soul into that, I don't
Yeah.
know how many people would have stuck with that. I mean, my understanding is that the ebook really blew up.
Yeah.
A lot of people picked it up, so Podium grabbed it, and then they got Bob doing it. So obviously, the text was hitting with
Yeah.
plenty of people, but a lot of that book, I think, seems dry. Weird did a good job of injecting a joke
Yeah.
when it was getting a little too much. You know what I mean? It
Disco
was like,
sucks.
yeah, well, yeah, it was like, okay, I wonder if he had a formula for that, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll write 3 paragraphs of highly technical detail, and then I'll figure out a way to work the word boobies in there just to get people's attention again. You know?
Yeah. I never thought of it that way. But a lot of the books I read, if the audiobook wasn't coming out for a bit, but the book was out, I would read the book. But in my head, I would hear whatever narrator was. But
Yes.
I've always looked at it. It's kind of like way back when it was just stories were told by word. There was no written history. It was all word said. I look at these audiobooks the same way. It's almost like we're
Yeah.
being told a story by like the chief of the tribe. He's telling us the story of our history of our thing type thing. And that's how I see it. And I love it. It's because I drive trucks, so it's easy. They kind of frown on you reading a book while you're driving, but I really enjoy the stories.
Mm, yeah, definitely, I agree. And I mean, so you do written books as well, like just like
Yeah,
normal books when you're
yeah.
kind of hanging around. Okay.
I've got an e-reader like the white thing that Amazon has. I've got one of
Okay.
those, and I have Kindle Unlimited, so I just read the book.
Yeah, you are that sweet spot on the Venn diagram.
Yeah,
Well, from my perspective, I mean, I don't know if it's interesting to you or not, but there's audiobook listeners,
yeah.
readers, and then there's book readers or ebook readers, and they tend not to be the same people
Oh,
in my
really?
experience. Yeah, that was one of the things that I was kind of curious. Like, this whole thing has been such a learning experience for me.
Yeah,
When we got the first commune book out, obviously things started happening,
oh yeah.
but for me they only happened on the audio side.
Wow.
The ebooks were still just coming in at a trickle. It's like one market does not necessarily
Yeah.
influence the other.
See, and I find that the audiobooks got me back into reading
Oh
because
yeah.
I would listen to the book and I'd go, okay, the next one's not out, but the book's out. Okay, well, I'm going to read the book then because I need to know what's going on.
Yeah, that seems to be a small percentage of
Yeah.
people, though. I
Wow.
think I think that people are just really their lives are so busy that
Yeah.
so few of us have time to sit down and
Well,
read
see,
anymore.
I got to kill 10 hours a day because I
Yes.
have to stop for 10 hours and I only sleep for 6 and then I'm ready to rock and roll. So
Well,
I need something to do.
that's right. Yeah, you guys, you have only a set period of
Yeah.
time that you're allowed to drive, and
Yeah.
then by
Yeah.
regulation you must rest. Right? You're
Yeah.
almost like airline pilots. It's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Oh, yeah.
That was when there was. I was up in Washington a few years back. I was serving as flight crew. We were flight testing a 777,
Oh, nice.
and so when you're flight crew on a 777, there's maybe like 15 people
Yeah.
that are working on the thing, and we flew up into Canada. We
Yeah.
and
Look how clean it is.
Well, it was cool because when I was on there, you get to crawl around the plane and
Yeah.
and look at stuff that you typically don't get to look at when you're a passenger. So one of the employees there, they were like, "Hey, you want to see the pilot rest?" And I was, "What the hell's a pilot rest?" And it's just like what those long
Yeah.
haul trucks where they got the little
Yeah. The
apartment
bunk.
behind
Yeah.
the cab.
Yeah.
So he says, "Yeah, come here." So we went up to it's the door just before you get into the flight deck, right?
Yeah.
It looks like a little coat closet,
Oh man.
and he like really narrow. Like I am almost too fat to get through the door, and he opens it, and it's just like the tightest little spiral staircase you've ever seen in your life.
Oh wow.
It's like going up a tower in a medieval castle. It's like really claustrophobic. But then you get to the top, and there's just this chill pad, like
Oh
like
wow. For
up
the.
up in the forehead of the aircraft. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like right above where the windscreen is. And it's just there's like this chair that's like it's almost like this laid back easy chair, and then right behind it there's a bed that kind of pushes through into a socket. So it's not a bed that's laid out sideways. It goes backward into a hole.
So they got to
So
crawl in.
yeah,
Yeah.
you kind of crawl in and lay down, and then there's like a ceiling like right over your face, and then the compartment has in-flight entertainment in it. So if you're in the chair, there's a little screen that pulls out in front of you, so you can watch movies or
Oh
stuff,
wow.
just like the passengers. And same thing in the bed. It's like right over your head. There's a little screen that you can kind of tap and watch while you're laying on your back.
Dang.
And I was kind of what are
Yeah.
they? So they're allowed to fly
Yeah.
for a set period of time, and then they'll have their relief crew hanging out the pilot's rest when they take off.
Yeah.
This is for really long flights. This is when you're
Yeah.
flying to like
Australia.
Australia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Australia, Singapore.
Yeah.
So at some point during the flight, there's this handoff where one crew comes down, another crew goes up, and
Wow.
now I cannot remember honestly now if access to the pilot's rest is before or after the security door that you need to pass to get into the cockpit itself.
Yeah, I wonder.
I it's hard for me to remember now. I would think you'd want the security door on the outside of that so
Yeah.
that
So you can still do
the
the change
cockpit
all
and
that.
pilot's rest are all behind that barrier
Yeah.
because there's a point of vulnerability where the crews are swapping
Yeah.
where get
Oh
in there and
yeah.
cause some serious stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's cool.
it, it, I think everybody's got like weird stories like that from their background where it's like,
Oh
wait, you
yeah.
did what?
Yeah.
you
What
know,
are you
it's
doing? Yeah.
yeah. I'm kind of fascinated by the this is gonna this might sound kind of assholish for me to say. I'm fascinated by the intellectual trucker
Yeah.
because that there's like this stereotype that the truck driver is like the rough and blue collar type person who whenever they're depicted in media,
Yeah.
you
The
know
dumb,
they,
the dumb
yeah
redneck type thing.
they've always got the chaw stuck in the side of their cheek, and,
Yeah.
and they're always really uncouth, and every truck driver I've spoken to, they're like the most widely read people
Yeah.
I've ever run
Well,
into, and I think it's because you've got this need to be entertained somehow when you're just
yeah.
going for
Yeah.
miles,
Well, you
right?
get out into Wyoming there on I-80. There's not much to see other than a few windmills, and that's
Mm,
it. So
yeah,
you need something to do.
you got to have something, I think.
But
My
yeah.
father-in-law drives for Walmart,
Oh yeah.
and that it's so funny because he and I'll just be sitting back talking, and outside of that profession, otherwise he's not what I would call an intellectually complex man. Okay,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean he's dumb.
No.
All right, that just means that up in the attic he's not very complicated. he's just he's kind of he's your typical well, he's your typical anybody. It's
Yeah.
like I've got my family that I'm worried about. I go do my job. I want a salary, and then I want to come home
Yeah.
when I'm not working and enjoy my family. And outside of that, he loves to barbecue. You
Yeah.
know, he's a black man, so of course he's got like
Yeah.
all the toys and stuff
Oh,
out,
nice.
and
Yeah.
yeah, he's got the smokers and the stick burner and all that, and he really loves to cook and entertain,
Wow.
uh, family, friends, whatever. I guess we'd say he's the opposite of you because he's got like
He's
everybody
yeah, he
coming
wants
around, not
yeah.
just like one or two, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because he is. Sometimes if we talk about my job, not writing but engineering,
Yeah.
I can tell there's a point where I'm getting too technical because then he just kind of goes
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah.
his contribution to the conversation kind of drops off. So it's, okay, I know I'm
Yeah. You
pull
went
it
too
pull it
far.
back a bit,
Yeah.
idiot. But then he will bust out with facts or knowledge about something,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter what it is. Like he out of nowhere, I'll touch on something that he knows about. Like we'll start talking about Nikola Tesla or something,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and suddenly he can speak to authority on this guy's legacy and career. And it's like, where the fuck are you getting this from? And he's like, yeah, no, I just read a book about him.
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
so
you go to what interests you and you just find the stuff. That's how I do it. But I find a lot of stuff interesting. But before I was driving truck, I went to school for computers. Like I was supposed to be a computer engineer.
oh wow, okay.
But I graduated in 1991 and the economy wasn't so good.
Mm.
And I ended up going to work for my dad and it just went from there. I just never really got back into it. I just do
So
computers as a hobby now.
so your dad was involved in trekking too, or
No, we were his business, well, way back, he was into construction and kitchen cabinets.
oh
But
okay, all right.
then in 81, things took a turn, and he ended up in a bar business, and it was the exotic dancer style bar business.
Ah, okay.
And he just went from there. And I ended up going into that with him. And I
That's
did
got to
all the,
be that's got to
I
be
did
interesting. How old were you when he got into the exotic
13,
dancing bar business?
13.
13.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must be like. Do you ever tell your dad bring home a free sample from
Yeah,
work or?
well, back all my buddies used to come by in the summertime because he'd come home and he'd have like audition tapes and stuff, and he's like, "Here, watch this," and
Oh
everybody went, "Yeah,"
Jesus.
and I'd be like, "Come on!" But yep, that was my
Yeah,
childhood, and yeah, I did that.
things
I
have
was doing
changed
all the
so much,
computer
haven't
stuff.
they?
Oh, that stuff doesn't even exist around here anymore. Down in
Oh well,
the states, they still got it. They call them gentlemen clubs.
if you well, yes, but I mean, if you, today, if anybody found out that that dad was bringing home audition tapes
Yeah, oh yeah,
from the
they'd have a
local titty
heart
bear,
attack.
oh
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
they'd send child
It
protective
was
services out and
Yeah, that was the 80s. It was a whole different ball game back then.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's something that I've been pretty interested in watching lately
Yeah.
is how how much we're holding people to account for things that they did that were once okay,
Yeah.
in just from a societal position, right? Like when Kevin Hart had to bow out of hosting the Oscars because of
Stuff he said
jokes
way
that
back. Yeah.
jokes that he'd told at a time when those jokes, whether they're appropriate or not now, at the time,
Yeah.
those jokes were like you could tell those jokes, and everybody kind of agreed, yeah, we're all right with this, you
Yeah.
know.
Um,
And I'm comedy is about always trying to come up to that edge without stepping over it anyway, right?
yeah.
Like you're trying to say the outrageous thing. A lot of comedians, you're trying to say the outrageous thing that shocks the audience, but that doesn't step over the line so that they back away from you.
Yeah.
And sometimes comedians get it right, sometimes they screw it up.
Oh yeah. Well, there's
But
been
I
a few
think
that
I
have
think
screwed it up.
I think it's never really done out of malice from a comedian. I think it's always they're just trying to find that limit
Yeah, they're just
without
pushing the
crossing it.
envelope. Yeah.
But then as society changes over the decades, and we all kind of we recalibrate. We
Yeah.
decide, okay, we're not going to allow these things anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I look at it as a
today,
pendulum. We go from one extreme
oh
to the
yeah,
other. You get that little
absolutely.
spot in the middle where everything's like okay, and then you go all the way to the one side and it's like, whoa, what the heck?
Yeah, in the pendulum, the momentum seems to increase, not decrease.
Yeah,
It swings a little more each way, and
yeah,
I think that's an acceleration of division.
yeah.
But when I was a kid, I didn't see people holding others to account for the mistakes or bad behaviors of the past, right? Like you'd be sitting around the table at Thanksgiving, and Grandma would say something like, "Oh, the colored
Yeah,
people," right? And it's like,
yeah,
Grandma, we don't say that anymore.
yeah,
And as an old person,
yeah.
they'd kind of look at you like, "Well, it was okay to say it when I was a kid. How come I can't say it like that anymore?" It's like, well,
Because
because
society's changed. Yep,
because society changes, and
yep.
and we all collectively decide what we're going to allow and what we won't. That's fine, but I also feel like, okay, let's not kick everybody's ass.
Well, I think what it is because of social media, you can go back in their history and go, "Oh, well, look what you said back here." And it's not
Yeah.
like I remember you. It's like, here's your words. Look what you
Yes.
said.
Yeah. I think Joe Rogan's talked about this. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's written down.
Yeah,
So it's frozen in history, and it's like this thing that people can go back and look at, and it's as though you've just said it yesterday.
yeah. Even though it's like
Uh, I
10 years ago.
Yeah, I get shit from my wife sometimes because, well, it's not because of something I wrote down, but every once in a while I'll say something, and the way wives or girlfriends are is it's
Yeah.
like when you say a thing, they commit that shit to memory,
Oh, yeah.
and then they'll pull it out and point it at you
50 years
later if
ago,
they.
you said this. It's like, well, okay,
Yes,
yeah, okay.
but I kind of found the defense for that. I think because she said that at one point. Well, you said this, and I said, well, okay, I probably did. I'm sure. When did I say that?
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, I think it was like 5 years ago. And I
Oh,
said,
I
oh,
think I've changed
okay.
since then.
I was like, I'm not allowed to change my opinion ever. What if I was wrong back then?
Yeah.
And I've suddenly come around. And she's like, I was like, yeah, are you going to allow me to change and improve over time?
No, I got to
And
hold this over you.
well, she goes, yeah, I guess I have to. And I was like, oh, thank you.
There you go.
And
Well,
I think we all have to do that collectively as a people if we're going to survive, right? It's like when somebody says something or has an opinion at an earlier point that we've all kind of agreed is wrong,
yeah.
and then they come to a point where they say, you know what, all you guys are right. I'm not going to be this way anymore. I think you're all right. I think we should reward that and say, hey
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
welcome to the party instead of, well, back in '75
Yeah. You were
you
doing
said this
this.
and
Yeah.
and we're gonna beat you with canes. It's like, well, okay, if that's how we're gonna react to people, then what incentive does anybody have
To
to
change.
grow
Yep.
or change or
Yep.
learn? So it's
Well, I had my eyes opened a while ago. I was working, I got off the road for a little bit and I was working as a manager at a cement company hauling cement. And I
yeah,
was working with these 20 somethings. Like, I was old enough to be their fathers or like even grandfather. And I was saying stuff, and they'd all get quiet and look at me, and I was like, "What?" They're like, "We don't say that anymore." And
yeah,
I
we
was like,
can't talk like that,
"Yeah,
bro.
what did I say?" And then they tell me, and I'm like, "Oh, we don't say that anymore." Okay. And it was just like, "Wow, okay, I'm old."
Yeah, I kind of feel like I should preface myself
Yeah,
with that disclaimer sometimes when I'm speaking with younger people. I'm
yeah,
like, listen, if I say something that's a little off or wrong, just bear with me, okay?
yeah.
I'm a little old now, and I'm trying to learn. You're gonna have to wait while I re-housebreak myself.
Oh yeah,
So and it's funny too because right now me personally I'm very I try to be very alert of the things that I'm saying now
yeah.
because there is so much damage associated with if you put your foot in your mouth.
Oh yeah. And they'll
And
just
there's
beat you with it.
and there's a standard of virtue out there that it's impossible
Yeah.
to match. It's like you really have to be like the most virtuous,
Well, see,
wonderful,
I
and
grew up
and
in that
and
time where it was sticks and stones will hurt my bones, but words will never hurt me. And now it's the whole opposite. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Well, I grew up when you could people could say whatever, and you just went, okay.
Yes. Well, I think that's the pendulum swing you were
Yeah.
talking about. And I think there's good to that though too. Because uh I mean, we all kind of know how much uh verbal abuse can really screw with people,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
especially if they don't have something good going in their life
Yeah.
to help them deal, right? Like if it so if I'm called a name, all right, somebody
Yeah.
calls me something, I probably don't care that much,
Yeah.
you know? Like me in my position right now, like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
call me what you like. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But if you were young, especially, like you know, your brain hasn't stopped
Yeah.
forming, and you're still learning how to exist in the world, and especially if you're a little awkward, maybe you don't have a lot of friends, and there's somebody who's they're not putting their hands on you, but they're just saying things to you.
Yeah. That can
Uh,
get to a point.
I think there's a lot of people that get worn down like that, and they can get psychologically destroyed,
Yeah.
and it screws with them for the rest of their life. So I think it's good that we think about that
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
stuff.
I've always gone through the life. I treat people how I would expect to be treated,
Yes,
and
I think most
yeah,
people are like that,
yeah, and I just
until they get on the internet.
yeah. Then I don't know what it is with the internet, but I don't even read the comments because it's just crazy. Some of the stuff it's like, oh man, okay, yep, next.
I just saw that today, this morning, when I got up and I was making my coffee. I saw an advertisement on Facebook
Hmm.
for Harrison Ford's new movie, Call of the Wild,
Oh, with that
with the
dog.
with the cartoon dog.
Yeah.
I and there were I don't know there was just a giant stack of comments below the ad, and it was just person after person saying how, well, too bad that Harrison Ford's a liberal traitorous asshole, and there's no way
Oh
I'm what.
yeah.
And I mean, I guess he went to Mexico or something and started talking about Trump or whatever. Um, and it was just comment after comment like that. There was one dude who literally said, "Nope, you what did he say? It was the main thing was you spoke out against Trump, treason." And
Oh
it's like, are you serious?
yeah.
Like, do you, it's like they don't even understand
Yeah.
what they just said. It's like the core tenet
Well, it's
about
extreme to
about
extreme.
a free society. The thing that makes a free society work is being able to talk some shit about the guy in charge.
Yeah.
As long as you can keep doing that, you're still free.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh
But
yeah.
the minute you're not allowed to talk about the guy in charge because it's treasonous,
Yeah.
okay, that's fascism now. That's really bad.
First, I
you
need to give
know?
you the definition of treason, and then we need to talk
Oh
about.
yeah. I mean, it's like let's not even get into that. But
Yeah.
they're really just like he said something
Well,
unfavorable about my guy, therefore fuck him.
yeah.
And I understand it. It's like you've got a perfect right to put your money where you want.
Yeah.
So if somebody says something that annoys you and you don't want to go pay for their product, that's your right. But at the same time, man, is that your requirement to enjoy something that somebody else has created? Like everybody that was involved in a film or something has to agree with you ideologically before you can see it.
Yeah.
Man, I'll bet you haven't seen that many movies. You know,
Yeah. You
your
must be a
basis of
hermit.
entertainment must really be a bummer.
Yeah. Hand
It's
puppets.
well, yeah, it's
I
you know,
just.
it's funny too because you can find something about some creative person that's always going to rub you the wrong way.
Well, what happened with?
So many pe It's like so many people love like Led Zeppelin, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, man, but Paige kind of kidnapped a 14-year-old and took her away for like a fuck vacation.
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
I don't know how
my
you.
wife.
You still like the music, so hey.
Well, yeah, it's like you know, and my wife tells me too. She's like, well, you know, age of consent over in the UK is 15 years old, so it was like she was 1 year off, and maybe they just have a different opinion over there. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
but 14,
Yeah, that's crazy.
dude,
I didn't even
that's
hear about that.
oh yeah, well, that's because that's the stuff that people don't really like to talk about.
Oh yeah.
I mean, but they were all
Wow.
wild sex beasts,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know.
they were all hopped up on stuff back then too, right? So.
Yeah.
All the stuff they
So
did.
I don't like for me. I don't know how I feel about that. Zeppelin. They did some shady shit behind the scenes, and then at the same time, they were totally lifting riffs from other musicians and incorporating them in their songs. It's like there's no way
Yeah. What was
you
there
could
was a
not
few
hear that.
songs I remember that now. That I
Yeah,
remember. Yeah. Wow.
but at the same time, uh, I like Immigrant Song.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's like after Bill Cosby got in trouble, my wife and I kind of looked at each other like, "Are we still allowed to laugh at his stand up? Because that
Well.
was still really funny."
Yeah.
And
Are
I
we
think
allowed
we
to like
both,
pudding or Coca
yeah.
Cola? Like, at what point? What at what point do you stop?
Yeah. So I think yeah, that's kind of a limiting. You know what I think it is? A lot of people seem to be insulating themselves from ideas now.
Well, because it
Like
doesn't go with what they want. So
yeah.
if it's not what I want, I'm not listening to you. It's kind of like sticking their fingers in their ears and going la 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 la. I can't hear you.
Yeah, but is it? I wonder. Is it because what they're hearing is making them angry, or like they're afraid they're going to get indoctrinated? Like, oh, this is how they get you
Yeah.
if you just talk to them.
Well,
So like,
I've got a few friends that you tell them stuff and they're like, "Well, I read this." It's like, "Whoa, okay, buddy. I was just
yeah,
telling you what I was talking about." Like,
yeah,
sorry.
calm down. Yeah, I think people have forgotten how to just like just just chat,
Yeah,
just
no.
disagree.
What is it? Debate has gone away. It's all screaming and yelling, is what I've been noticing lately.
You know what? I think debate is good.
Yeah.
Debate is that's how you counter a bad idea, right?
Yeah.
You don't counter a bad idea by shutting it down or turning it off. You counter a bad idea with a good idea.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know that debate is helpful for general discussion because debate is a contest.
Yeah. I'm
A
right,
lot of
you're
times
wrong
when you
type
hold
thing.
it, yeah, and a lot of times when you hold a debate, it's more about just winning versus are we getting somewhere?
Yeah.
Are we coming to an understanding?
A
There's
constructive
for
type
me
thing.
there's a difference. Yeah, there's a difference between a debate and a discussion.
Yeah.
So, like a lot of times, I just like to have a discussion with people. Even if I don't,
Yeah.
even if I know I'm not going to agree with them, it's still good to hear what they have to say. I think.
Yeah, because you pick up ideas. Like, I'll listen to people. Like, heck, I even know somebody that's a flat earther. I think they're the dumbest thing on the planet, but it's like, okay, let me hear it. And they'll tell me their stuff, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, you keep believing that.
That's interesting. Now, so how well do you know this person?
Not super well. Like, I know them
Yeah.
through Facebook. There's a relationship from way back, and
Okay.
I would see posts, but I always thought it was just a joke type thing until I started really paying attention to what they were saying, and it was like, whoa, you really believe this stuff? So I asked them about it, and they told me, and I was like, okay. So it's just like, we'll just put you back over there.
Well, let me ask you. I mean, so it sounds like you don't know the person very
Yeah,
intimately,
no,
but that's fascinating to me because I think that the one thing in common that flat earthers have, it's not that they're dumb.
no.
There there are a lot of flat earthers who are not stupid at
Yeah.
all.
I think it's a
They're
community
really
thing. They just found a group they can belong to.
yes. I've seen flat earthers that are highly educated, highly technically proficient,
Yeah,
but they still believe. And from what I've seen, the one thing that they have in common, or that they tend to have in common, is that at some point society left them behind.
yeah,
There was something that happened, whether there was social awkwardness
yeah,
or they got burned somehow at some point and withdrew. People ultimately they're social.
yeah,
Whether you need to be social with only like one or two people,
yeah,
or you need a large group, there's people out there that they missed that somehow. They never
yeah,
found their tribe, and I think the people that get involved with flat earthers, those are the same people or the same kind of people that go to the bullshido dojos and learn the no touch knockout. It's like I've found this group of people, and we're all going to agree to believe the same thing.
yeah.
but in the process of that, I've got some community here. I've got some friends.
Yep.
We can all feel as though the thing that we're doing is significant because we're fighting some establishment and we're exposing truth. I think it conveys a deep sense of importance
Yeah. I
to the people that are engaging.
and that's how I see a lot of the politics these days too. That you see people that feel that they've been wronged for a while. They get a guy and they like, oh yeah, and then they go with that because it's just I don't know. I think just society in general is a little on the sideways slant right now. It's just
Yeah,
going to certain ways, and it's like, whoa, we've gone to some extremes here. Let's back it up a bit. So
yeah. Well, I think the internet or social media rather is at the core of that.
yeah,
I think it's people weren't really meant to talk to each other in such a low resolution format.
and I think a lot of
Low resolution really is the I think the right term.
yeah,
Like when you and I were planning to meet and talk,
yeah,
and I said no, I think it would be better if we had a camera so that we
yeah,
could see each other.
yeah,
Even though this is just going to be audio when I put it up, right?
yeah,
Like I wanted us to be able to see each other's face
yeah. So
because that gives you more to work with, right? It's like I can tell if I'm saying something to you and it's not landing or
yeah,
you're not getting it, I can see it in your face before I'm done talking.
yeah, body language and
And
everything.
exactly. And there's that aspect when you talk to people. It's like, "Oh, okay, I can see that I'm going somewhere that this person has a problem with." And then we can kind of like pause and clarify
Yeah,
and we can head off a lot of uncomfortable shit before it
yeah,
happens.
and
Whereas,
misunderstandings.
yeah, whereas when we're doing a text interaction through social media,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
just sitting there and writing out my thoughts in a bubble
yep,
with no feedback at all. And I might be going down the wrong track, or I might read somebody's just their text without any inflection. They might be joking, they might be sarcastic,
yeah,
they may not have read their or they may not have formulated their thought very well before they posted,
yeah,
and then immediately I go on attack. And then if I do that, the person I'm responding to isn't going to feel compelled to say, "Well, wait, let me clarify my statement."
yeah,
It's going to go really quick to, "Well, you're a fucking dick too," and
yeah.
it's just going to
Oh yeah.
spiral. And
See,
God, everybody is just so at each other's throats.
and I learned that a while ago back when I started playing online games back in like the early 2000s because it was all type. There was no
Yeah.
voice communication, it was all type. And you had to figure out, okay, that's where all the emojis came from because you had to put like a wink face to let people know
Yes.
I'm being sarcastic and stuff like that. Because otherwise, holy crap, could you get a flame war going real quick?
Well, you know what's funny about that is like back in the day, that kind of flame war shit,
Yeah.
that only happened with the kind of the lurkers of
Oh
society.
yeah. Yeah,
Like
the
ba-
trolls, the basement trolls
well,
where they
yeah,
just
back before gaming had become so mainstream,
yeah.
right? Like it was still a nerd activity,
Yeah.
right? And like I played EverQuest back in
Oh yeah.
the back in '99. So like
Evercrack.
I was in on the ground floor of nerddom,
Oh yeah.
okay? And it used to be like you'd go on EverQuest or something, and people would just be like toxic as fuck to each other,
Oh,
right?
yep.
And you'd think, okay, well, that's just these people. That's not what humanity is, right? You say, okay, there's a certain type of person who plays these games, and that's who I have to deal with. But now, if you go on Facebook and a lot of places, not all of them,
Yeah.
Facebook seems to be a little more clean than what you get on Twitter because people they can kind of build a wall around themselves better on Facebook so
Yeah.
that they only interact with the kind of people they want to.
Yeah.
Where on Twitter, everything is just the Wild
Oh, it's
West.
open world on that. That's just crazy.
But you can watch on Twitter the way people interact with each other, and they all look like a bunch of toxic gamers from the 90s.
You should
And I
go.
think it's,
You should play World of Tanks if you want to see toxic.
well, I think I think it's just text communication.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or communicating through memes, and it's just low resolution
Yeah. And I think a lot of people too.
information.
There's some people out there they just love that chaos. They just love to create it.
Oh yeah, but those people, and it's tough too because it's so hard to gauge intent. You know, it's like you wish you could get some demographic data on this stuff
Yeah.
because it's so wild right now. We don't actually know what's going on. I don't know if that's a bot. I don't know if it's a Russian troll.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's some 13-year-old
Yeah.
in like Nebraska somewhere who's
Is
just bored and is having fun winding a bunch of people up.
or a foreign
You have
state,
no idea.
some foreign state just going out there going, okay, let's get these guys going this way, and we'll get that group going that way. Yep. Oh, I know.
And it's weird too because we've all kind of agreed that that's what's happening, right?
Yeah.
It's like everybody kind of knows that intellectually, and yet still, you go on to one of these platforms and they've still got the knives out, and
Yep.
it's
I think it's
okay.
train. I think it's the train wreck thing. They can't tear away from it. They gotta watch what's gonna happen.
I yeah, I agree. I think you're probably right. I think there's a piece of that where it's just like we're gonna watch it burn,
Yep.
which is, I mean, there's a sick aspect inside my head that does enjoy that. Like
Yeah.
when I see people when I see people when they start to lose their minds and go crazy,
Yeah.
I don't I try to stay out of it. Like every once in a while I'll like write out a comment because I want to needle somebody and then
Yeah.
I delete it right after
Yeah.
because I don't want to be throwing gas on the fire.
I hear
Like
you.
I think this stuff continues and just becomes more dangerous.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
I'll
so it's
I'll do
like
the same thing. I'll type something out. I'll look at it and go, yeah, nope, delete.
yeah. And then well I have to think with it from a different perspective.
Yeah, because you've
Not,
got something like you got to be careful now.
well, it's kind of less than that. I think we're probably getting toward the end of cancel culture here.
Yeah, I'm hoping so
I
because I'm tired of it.
well, I think we're it's just it's got diminishing returns. It's losing its effectiveness because most cancel culture seems to focus mostly on entertainment media,
Yeah.
and the first place where we see that impact is movies.
Yeah.
So you see the messaging being put into movies to try to appease the
Well, I
the the,
remember
the, the cancel police.
what was the book
And
that came out? Orson Scott Card's book, Ender Games,
oh yeah,
when they
Ender's
did
Game.
Ender's Game. He said something about the LG, whatever I can't even remember it now. He said something bad, and that's when I first got my taste of cancel culture because they were
Yeah.
just like, nope, we're not going to it.
Well, I don't honestly know what he said,
Yeah, I don't.
but I do know that he's a devout Mormon.
Oh, wow.
So I think he must have said something along the lines of, well, so I'm guessing now,
Yeah,
okay? I could be totally wrong.
yeah,
But just having read the stories that he's done, I don't think he has any malice for homosexuals or
no,
trans community.
yeah,
I think that he's just probably got a religious belief that says you're probably not supposed to do this.
yeah,
And my guess, knowing nothing else about it, my guess would be that he spoke to that and spoke honestly
yeah,
about what his religious beliefs are.
yeah,
And we're kind of in a place where it's like, no, you're not allowed to have personal beliefs that disagree with mine.
yeah,
And it's kind of like that. And there is a segment. I think cancel culture itself is really just it's all about. Again, you hear Rogan talk about this a lot. It's about compliance.
yeah,
And what I've noticed just watching how people respond to this behavior is that if you spook and you start apologizing and you start trying to backpedal
no, it's blood in the water for the sharks.
yes,
Yeah.
once you start trying to meet their requirements, they realize they've got a bite and then they go after you
Oh yeah,
and they won't let you go.
no,
Versus if you just ignore them, it's almost like dealing with a schoolyard bully. Or how they tell you you should deal with them rather.
yeah,
It's like I just ignore them and they'll lose interest. And for the most part in cancel culture, it kind of does. They do because it's not so much about correcting an injustice for them. I really believe this. It's more about where we're finding meaning. It's just like flat earthers, you
yeah,
know. We're all going to band together and get a thing changed. And it's going to make us feel as though we have some control over our reality.
Yeah, that's true.
I
Yeah.
think I think it's as easy as that, and I think a lot of these. I think a lot of the people within cancel culture. I think they're lost souls. In much the same way like your flat earther
Yeah.
is.
Well,
It's
they've
not
probably
so
been
much that
wronged at some point, and they just want to.
yeah.
I'm gonna get them back, and this is how I'm
I
gonna do it.
think I think they're coming from an emotional place. I think a lot of them are people that have found now their tribe,
Yeah.
and there's that mentality. You know, it's almost like a cultish mob mentality.
Oh, it's a club. Remember, it's always a club. It's never a cult. Oh, you probably haven't read
Uh,
all of X Force. Yeah.
oh
Right. Yeah.
no, I haven't.
Yeah.
It's uh, I'm kind of quiet about
Yeah.
what I will and won't read.
Yeah.
Mostly because a lot of these authors are my friends,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't want them to think that I disliked their work. But and I don't.
Yeah.
Dislike has nothing to do with it. It's just certain things for me they catch my attention and hold it,
Yeah.
and then other things don't, and I've
Yeah.
got to go find something else. And
Well,
that's not on
that's
them or their
human.
writing.
That's being human, though.
That's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
personality.
Well,
Um,
everybody's like that because I don't read all the technical journals. Like I'd be like, oh God, another one. No. But
yeah, I think in my case, like for the Skippy books, I believe I got through the third one,
yeah.
and after that, it it was never really a conscious decision on my part
Yeah. You
to
just
either
moved
say
on.
to say I'm going to get the next one or I'm not going to get the next one. Like
Yeah.
I never made that choice to myself. It was really just okay, finished this one, and you know the next one's going to come out at some point. So it's like, all right, well, go find something else.
Yep.
And then my tastes, what I like to listen to, they evolve like
Yeah.
really fast. I, I I typically get interested in one type of thing, and then I'll scratch that itch,
And
and
then
then
you move on. Yeah.
I want to go look at something else, right?
Yep.
So then when the next Skippy book comes out, and I'm onto this new track now,
Yeah. You're like,
I
oh,
look
I'll
at
get
that
it
and I'm like,
later.
yeah, you kind of look back at it and say, oh, I could move this along a little bit further, but by that point, like the kind of person I am, I'm
Yeah.
interested in different things now. So and I think that's probably not really fair to the author because they can only write so fast.
That's true. Yeah.
But you know, if I can't if my brain isn't getting locked into something, it's going to go somewhere else.
Well,
Like I
That happened to me with the Arisen series. I'm stopped at book 8 because I just got tired of zombies, and
yeah
I found I can't remember what book I found. Um, who was it? I don't remember now. I found another series and I got into it, and I was like, okay, well, I'll get back to it when I get back to it.
yeah Arisen is another good example. And you know what? I'll say this: if you're tired of zombies,
Yeah.
you should actually stick with the Arisen series.
Oh, did they finally get away from it for a bit?
Well, yeah, because so what happened was he started writing that series with a guy named Glenn James, right?
Yeah.
And Glenn James is more of a horror writer, and Fuchs is more like he's the guy who's really into the military shit,
Yeah.
right? So all the tactics and military stuff in this book that's usually Fuchs,
Oh, okay.
and then when you're dealing with zombies and the horror of the zombies and stuff, that's James. So at some point, James decides I can't keep up with Fuchs' pace because Fuchs is an animal
Oh, yeah.
when it comes to getting books out. Like he is a machine, right?
Wow.
So Glenn James is like, dude, I can't keep up with you.
Yeah.
I can't keep going at your pace. So I'm just gonna bow out. You start writing these things, okay? And you know, like no hard feelings. It was totally a friendly
Yeah.
thing between the two of them. But when that happens, zombies were really a big part of that because of the horror aspect
Yeah.
that James brought along. So as soon as he bows out of the series, you see a shift, and suddenly, it's almost like you know how in Walking Dead at some point the zombies just become a distraction or
Yeah.
an annoyance, and it's now humanity that so that kind of happens in these books, and without going too deep into spoiler territory, there's this Russian special forces unit that they have to contend with,
Yeah.
and
Well, that's
a
where I was.
long. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm at that.
So yeah,
I
it's like
finished that part. Yeah.
Oh, all right. So then you got through all that and got back to the climax then.
Yeah, I got back. Book eight
Oh,
is
all right.
where that's where they do all that with the Russians, and then it
Well, it seemed to me that they kept that up for a few books.
was
Like
it
there was the Russians, there was the Russians, and then there was a dude up in
the mountains.
I I think he was in Siberia somewhere, and he had actually figured out the well shit now yeah
Yeah,
spoilers.
spoilers. Yeah. Well, he's the one that
There was a
made it.
dude. Right. Well, yeah, he was the one who made it, but he was also the guy who had the cure,
Yeah.
right? And he just needed like some sort of DNA sequencer. It's an action series, so it does towards
Yeah.
the end. It kind of turns into a MacGuffin hunt,
Okay.
but I mean, still, it's.
I'll get back to the
I
series at
think
some point.
I kind of feel like it's you benefit if you have the whole series at once
Yeah.
because the thing goes so goddamn
Well, it's up
fast,
to like
even though
14
it's like a
books,
hundred
15
thousand
books.
books.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah, it's not, well.
it was
Sorry, go
Helldivers.
ahead.
It was Helldivers that I got into when I was waiting when
Hmm.
I that's where I switched off to. So,
Yeah. So yeah, for me, and Arisen was another one. I never finished it,
yeah.
and the only book that I would need to finish the story is the last book. I
Oh,
got all
wow.
the way up until the last book, and I'm and Fuchs and I are buds.
Yeah.
It's not like we know each other in real life, but online we bullshit back and forth sometimes. And the guy's totally cool, and I really loved listening to the Arisen series.
Yeah.
But by the time that final book came out, my brain was somewhere else already, and I just haven't. There hasn't been a point yet where I felt compelled to go back.
And I,
And
I think I'd have to start the series over again because it's been so long since I've listened.
I think I probably
Yeah.
will do that too.
And I don't know if I could do that.
If well, man, you got a lot of time to kill
Yeah, that's true.
in that truck. You always could get to a point where you say, you know what, I don't have a credit, I
Yeah.
can't get anything new.
Time to
Maybe it's
start.
time to just
Yeah.
re-listen.
Well, I'll
And by
go
the
back to
time
the
you
Ember Wars if I do anything because that's one of my big first series I started on Audible was Ember Wars.
is that something like will you just re-listen to that one over and over
Yeah,
again? You'll never.
because I enjoy it. Like,
Okay.
there's one character in there I just love called Standish. He's a Canadian, so of
Uh
course I'm gonna like him. But
huh.
that's just one character I love in that book series, and it's a good series. The first 9 books are awesome. I love them.
So is there any point when you're doing that on a re-listen
Yeah,
where you've heard it so many times that your brain just goes on autopilot and you stop processing what you're hearing?
probably. Like, there's times I just like. There's also times where I've gotten into the book
Hmm.
and I've missed exits where it's like I know I got to get off at
Oh
this
yeah,
exit and I'll go right by it going, oh yeah, I had to get off there. So I have to go
yeah.
to the
You
next
turn.
exit to come around, go back. But on the whole, no, I just listen to them and it doesn't become background noise, not like music does, because with music it
Yes.
just becomes a background noise at a certain point. But with the
Yeah.
books, it's always something going on. I can pay attention to it and it keeps me busy with stuff
Hmm.
because yeah, it can get pretty boring out there.
Oh, I think after you've heard a story enough times too, it's almost like you can have it running
Yeah,
and then step off
yeah, and come right
and
back to it.
not pay attention for a while, and then a little bit later you kind of re-engage and you're like, oh, I know where this part is,
Yeah,
and it's not jarring. I think the biggest challenge for me when I'm listening to a new book that I haven't done before, excuse me, sorry, is that the book really has to grab me
yeah,
really hard, or I will, like when I'm doing an audio book, I'll kind of derail and start thinking about things. I think for me it's really tough because I'm usually thinking about my own stuff that
yeah.
I'm gonna write.
What's
Like
next? What am I gonna do with this character type thing? Yeah,
yeah, and it's hard for me. I think it might be harder for writers to
yeah.
to keep on track when they're listening to an audiobook.
I do know a few times, like I'll be listening to an audiobook and they'll say something and it'll click an idea in my head, and I'll start going off on that idea in my head, and then I'll realize, crap, I
Yeah.
just missed the last 10 minutes of that book, and I have to backtrack.
Yes, and I think it's harder to do that when you're reading text because like you have to engage to read
Oh yeah,
text.
to comprehend it,
If
you just
if
can't just scan it. Yeah,
yes, if you're going to think about something else, you have to put the book down
Yeah.
and then think about it. It's almost like it's the difference between running on a treadmill and running out in
Outside.
the open.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm outside, I have to actually propel myself to keep moving.
Yep.
On a treadmill, I just have to keep up.
Yeah, and you don't. You're paying it. You have to pay attention to your surroundings when you're outside,
Yeah, I
so you
think
don't
it's
get
more
hit
of a
by that
passive
car.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never really looked at it that way. Because I know with the audiobooks, you just put them in and away you go. But with the book, yeah, you have to pay more attention in the book when you're reading.
Yeah, the,
Huh?
that's kind of why I. That's one of the reasons I write the way I do, as well. Though,
Yeah.
I, I, I wonder. Well, there must be. I'm sure there's a lot of readers that are frustrated by the way I write. All you have to do is go read my negative. All you got to do is read my negative
Yeah.
reviews, and you
Well,
can see who's getting
you
pissed.
can't please everybody, right? Like there was
Oh,
that book I
I don't
just
even.
that one that just came out that I was optional retirement plan. I don't know if you've ever listened to it. Um,
I know of it. I
yeah,
think that was a Bray book, wasn't it?
yeah. Bray did it. It was by Michael
That's what I thought.
May, I think it was that did it. I don't remember who did it
My
now.
Mike Mame. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that
that
was
might
him,
sound.
or was it?
Okay.
No, it was Chris Porter. I can't remember his name
Oh.
now. Sorry, I'm
There's a
real bad
lot.
with names.
No,
No.
dude, I can't keep them straight.
Yeah,
Like there's a ton of names now
yeah,
that I'm seeing that come up in my feed over and over
yeah.
again, and half the time I can't tell if they're with my publisher or not
Oh yeah,
because Athon they
they're
sucked
big.
up a lot of
Oh yeah,
people that were doing the independent
yeah,
thing, and especially a lot of them had landed Bob
yeah. Oh yeah.
as a narrator or Porter and
That's almost like when
you
you.
know
It's almost like hitting the lottery when your book gets done by Bob these days. Is what I'm
oh, it
seeing.
absolutely
Because
is.
everybody's like,
It
"Whoa,
is.
my book's gonna be done by Bob," and I'm like, I don't know if it's because I've met him and we talk every once in a while, but I see him as a regular guy. And then everybody
Well,
talks,
yeah, he's
yeah, and it's everybody talks about it, and it's like, okay, so I don't know if it's just because I've done so many books by him or what it is. I don't know, but I'm happy for them because that honestly, that optional retirement plan, I probably wouldn't have read that book
yeah.
because his writing style is so different from anything I've ever experienced before. But with Bob doing it, I was like, I love this story and how he's told it.
Well, when you say his writing style is different
It's
from what you've done,
the way he talks, like the way he does his story. I can't explain it. It's not like he follows a set plan from
uh
point
huh.
A to point B. He'll kind of take you to point A and then he'll go to C, then he'll go back to A, then he'll go over. It's just I don't know how to explain it. You'd have to experience it. It's a
So you're saying it's more how he structures
Yeah,
his story
it's not
rather than
linear.
the way he
Yeah,
writes.
it's not a
Okay.
linear. You go, here's your story arc. He's got it, but it's just the way he gets you
Yeah.
there, and I loved it.
So okay, so you appreciate that. You
Yeah,
like
I
that
kind of
more
like that
than
because I
just a
like
straight.
different stuff. I don't want always the same. We start here, we go through this journey to here, to here, to here, and then end up here. I
Oh,
don't
good.
always want that because, like, you'll see TV shows and you'll turn it on, you'll be like, you've never seen the show before in your life, but they're following the same cookie cutter thing that everybody else has done.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, yep, next, click.
I think guys like guys people like me wonder about that a lot
Yeah,
too. And I feel a push and pull
yeah,
all the time
okay,
because uh, I'm I'm sure you've seen it in the various Facebook groups or something, right? It's like I'll finish a new story that I'm working on
yeah,
and say, oh, here it is. Here's a new thing that's going to come, and invariably, like the first 3 or 4 comments to that is Commune 5,
yeah,
and it's like, oh God,
yeah,
go away.
yeah.
you know,
No, I
you
just,
feel you feel like that. You feel like, oh, go away, but again, you always have to remind yourself. It's like, well, the reason they're doing that is because they like what you do.
yeah,
Don't be a fucking dick about it.
yeah.
Just appreciate that they loved what you wrote so much that they want more of it.
Well, what was that?
But at the same time, I wonder if I actually gave readers a Commune 5, I'm sure they'd listen to it,
Yeah,
right, or read it.
but would you
But
want to do that?
Well, let's say that I wanted to.
Yeah.
Would they feel as though it was something worth returning to once they had it? Right now, they think they want it,
Yeah.
but but I think that's because they must have enjoyed the first four books so much.
And
Do you know what I
you
mean?
did leave four kind of open.
Well, there's going to be a fifth book, but it's
Yeah.
not going to be a commune book.
Yeah.
The reason
There's
I
other
left it open the
stories to be
way
told.
well, the reason I left it open the way I did was because I got an idea for a very specific type of story
Yeah.
that I wanted to do,
Okay.
and I thought it would be fun to do with Gibbs, but it's not going to be anything like what Commune was,
Yeah.
because I don't want to just repeat myself. And again, it's like that same concern. If I gave you more of the same,
Well, you get
would you
bored.
really
It's
would
like
you
the
really
zombie
enjoy it as
thing.
much as you think you
Well, it's
will?
like the zombie thing. You get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm done with the zombies. And what you came up with is a novel idea of how you brought about the end of the known world. It's a different style. There wasn't aliens involved. There wasn't zombies. It was just this happened and pff, there you go. And that's I think what grabbed people. That's what grabbed me because it was like, hey, that's a novel idea. I never thought what would happen if we had this happen.
Yeah, and the funny thing for me personally is that I hear that a lot. There's a lot of readers that tell me, "Oh man, they get really interested in the event
Yeah.
that caused everything to end,"
Because it's
which was
very
like the least
plausible,
interesting thing to me.
but it's the most plausible thing. We're never going to see zombies. Like to have zombies, like that's not going to happen. Unless they're high on bath salts. That's about it.
Yes, but I think that gives you a different type of story.
Yeah.
Some people like that. Some people like that the thing that causes the end of the world is the thing that can never happen.
Yeah.
It allows them to disengage a bit and just say, okay, I'm engaging in fantasy.
Yeah.
Some people I think would like it to be more realistic because they like a little bit of that unease that they feel
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, I think this is more realistic.
Yeah. This could happen.
Not not to say that my book is or is not realistic. Okay,
Yeah.
I tried to make it as real as I could,
Yeah.
but I'm sure there's plenty of things that I got wrong in there.
Well, you still got
So
to have that little bit of fantasy there where, yeah, that's never going to happen, but it's cool to think about type thing. And
yeah, usually in my case when I'm writing a story, there's one thing that you just have to accept,
yeah.
and then if you accept that, everything else works.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the end of the world stuff is people just wanting to get away from it all for a while. Because there's just
Yes.
so much pressure in the real world. And they're like, you know what? If this just all went away, I'd be happy. But no, you wouldn't. Because where are you going to think about it? Who's making the bum watch for you? Like, at some point, you're going to run out. Like, that's my
Yeah.
favorite part about Mountain Man. He's always worried about TP. That's his only thing. He doesn't care about the zombies. He's like, there's TP there, grab it.
Well, it's because he knows at some
Yeah,
point all that's going to be left are pine cones,
yes. And you're going to have a
and
fun
that's going to
time.
suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just stuff I like because you're like, yeah, you know what? I never thought about that because you see all these shows about end of the world. Nobody's worried about toilet paper.
Well, that I think what Mountain Man had was a concept,
Yeah,
a really good concept,
yeah,
and I talked to Blackmore about that. We were discussing it, and it was me telling him how much I'd enjoyed those books,
yeah.
and he said, it's funny. I wasn't really setting out to write a zombie book so much as I wanted to write Robinson Crusoe, but with zombies.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
See,
I
I had a
think,
hard time with that book. The first two, like I stopped halfway through book two because it was getting real close to home with the drinking. It
oh,
was
okay,
hitting real close. I was like, wow, this guy's like hitting it. And I had to stop. And I got talking in the group in the Facebook chat. I think it was in 50 Shades of Grey where I said, look, I can't do this. I can't listen anymore. And people are like,
yeah.
get past it. It will get better. He gets through that.
I think though that it was good.
Yeah.
If it was impacting you like
Yeah.
that,
Well, yeah.
where I See, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think that's something special.
Yeah,
Now, maybe you didn't want to deal with that at the time, which is totally
yeah,
cool, right? Like that. Yeah. Sometimes I'll come across something that's a little too real for me, and I got to back away from
yeah,
it. But I think that that probably means it's a much more meaningful piece of
yeah.
work.
Well, I'm
Whether
glad
I
I
can
went
ha-
back to it.
Yeah, whether I can handle it or not,
Yeah,
I can recognize like, oh, okay, this is something
yeah,
special
yeah.
here.
It
But
helps me
yeah,
deal. It helped me deal with it too, because I realized, hey, I have an issue there that I thought I'd taken care of. So
yes.
I moved through it, and I got it. It helped me, and I kind of grew a little bit in my personal thing with some stuff I didn't even realize I still had.
Isn't
So
that great?
yeah, and I loved it.
With
That's what I love about books, because sometimes,
with a zombie book,
yeah,
man.
and
With a
of all
zombie
things,
book.
a zombie book
Yeah.
about a guy that's got this Captain Morgan dude with him in his head, and it's just like wow, like it just blew me away. So
Well, that was what I learned
yeah,
from reading Blackmore.
yeah,
Uh, excuse me. Edit that out. Burp on mic. Uh, no, it was that he could do that with a zombie book.
yeah,
It taught me things about writing because I don't know if you can tell or not when you're reading my stuff, but all the the fantastic and the actiony shit
yeah,
is actually the least interesting thing to me when I'm writing this stuff. The 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 places where I'm having the most fun in these books is really just um, building a unique character and then finding
yeah,
some interesting things for characters to do together,
yeah,
interactions, psychology, what's going on in their head. That's the stuff that I like.
yeah.
And then all the other shit, like I kind of add in because something else has to
Yeah,
happen. I'm
you got to keep everybody entertained. And I actually that's the parts I liked about Kami was the interaction with the characters because
Yeah, okay.
you built the personalities of people and it's like wow, like when you did I don't know if we can do spoilers. We have to do
Oh
spoilers.
fuck it.
Yeah, like if
We've already
when
gone there.
Wang
Spoiler.
makes him go look at the horse. Oh my God, that was I actually had to stop the truck because I couldn't see for the tears coming out of my eyes because it was just so funny. But that interaction with people, it just that's what drew me to it. And the fact that it was a novel idea about how the end of the world came about. And I was like, okay, I like this story.
Yeah, and that's that's what Blackboard
Yeah,
taught me was that you can still write the kind of story that you want to write,
yeah,
but have it be commercial.
yeah,
Because I think, excuse me, I think that maybe people kind of struggle with that. Writers, I mean,
yeah,
trying to figure out what it is they want their brand to be. Am I going to be action writer? Am I going to be
yeah.
zombie writer? Am I going to be and
But do you have to be
I
that way? Can't you just be a writer of books? And this time I'm telling a story about this. Next book I'm telling like you're kind of all over the place. You did an AI book. Like that's totally off from
that's
commune.
that's really intentional though
Yeah.
on my part.
Okay.
It's me trying to go in directions that are unexpected
Yeah.
because I don't want to get stuck in one area.
Yeah.
Now other writers, I don't know if they get stuck or not. Okay.
Or they may just enjoy it.
Um,
It just might be their
yeah,
thing that
that's
they
right.
like this and that's what they do.
Which is why I wouldn't want to assume.
Yeah.
But it's like let's say in Craig's case, right?
Yeah.
He he's he's got an ass load of books planned
Oh yeah.
for Skippy,
Yeah.
and
And
I
Mavericks. He's got the spin-off Mavericks now too.
yes, and I personally I believe he's writing that stuff because he loves
Yeah.
writing those stories. I think he loves those characters. I think it's kind of clear when you listen
Yeah.
or read his books,
Yeah.
like these are all characters that he loves
Yeah.
thinking about, loves writing with. I mean, you can feel that.
Yeah.
So I think in his case, yeah, cool. I think you must be doing what you want to. Um, I wonder if that's the same for everybody though. I
I don't
think
know.
I think there really are a lot of writers that are sticking in a specific genre with a specific formula because that's the thing that made money for them, and they want to
But I
keep the
think
money
you could,
coming in.
at some point, I think I'd be able to tell that because it'd be like, okay, we've already been down this path with another character. Like at some point, you're gonna see where they're just, okay, they're just bringing it out because this is what they do, or at least that's how I see it. Because I can tell when I can read it, and it's like, all right, yeah, you've lost interest here because it's just kind of like I don't know how to explain it.
No, I understand what you're saying though. It's like, well, the books fall into a formula.
Yeah,
They repeat the same patterns over and over
yeah,
again. And that's when you're putting a story together, that's really the thing that you have to concern yourself with, or at least it's the thing that I concern myself
yeah,
with. Everything for me in story is pattern. Every I Everything that I think about, contemplate, perceive, it's always pattern.
yeah.
It's like replicating patterns,
Okay.
sequences, and I think that's because I've spent 20 years now as an engineer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that
So
would do it for you. Yeah, because you gotta follow the procedures to get to the final product type thing.
well, it's not even necessarily procedures. I think in my case, it's more you spend a lot of time taking spectral continuums
Yeah.
in engineering,
Hmm.
and then reducing that down to finite values, right? And all of that is pattern recognition, processing,
Yeah.
a lot of so I have a lot of time invested in learning how to take nebulous things and then put that down to some sort of number or value.
Okay.
And I think that has caused me to think about certain things in certain ways. And yeah, like when people read stories, I think they just see, characters are doing things, but I'm seeing predictive patterns emerging
Okay.
on the page, and that probably sounds really miserable and clinical, and it probably is.
I don't know, because if you think about it, when you meet someone for the first time, there's always everybody goes through the same procedure type thing of how you meet the person. You talk, you share names, you say this is what I do, this is what you do,
Yeah.
and you try to find a common interest so you can talk and get to know each other better. And it's the same with anything if
Well,
you think about it.
yes, and I think that's the key to writing a book that really gets people engaged is the ability to exploit that.
Yeah.
Because as a reader, when you're consuming some piece of work, it makes you feel good when you know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't mean that the story's predictable. I mean that when people are behaving in a way that you can predict,
Yeah.
and when events unfold in a way that you can predict, that what that tells you is that you're getting a handle on
Yeah.
the world that's being shown to you. So that's like mastering a skill, okay?
Yeah.
And whenever we master a skill, it makes us feel good about ourselves.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
true.
oh
Yeah.
man,
Hey, look what I
I got
accomplished. Yeah.
yes, I've got the hang of something. I get it. I know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's like when you learn a game. When
Yeah.
when you first start a video game, you're pretty out of your depth, and everything is uncomfortable. And oh, I don't like this UI because it's not just like the last game's
Yeah.
UI that I've gotten comfortable
Yeah.
with. And oh well, oh good. At least there's a newbie in-game tutorial that I can follow.
Yeah.
But then as you're going through that and you start learning how this new thing works and how to interact with the UI efficiently,
Yeah.
how to survive, how to start dominating in
Yeah.
that world, that feels
Oh
good.
yeah. Yeah.
You're
Because
like,
you're
oh
like, hey,
yeah,
look
but
what I
then
did.
at a certain point that gets boring because everything is happening the way you know it's going to
Yeah.
happen. So if you know everything that's going to happen before it does, that sucks. So what you're really dealing with when you're dealing with a reader is you're dealing with somebody who wants to be able to predict what's going to happen next, but they also want you to surprise them.
Yeah. Toss a little like, okay, it didn't go the way I thought it was gonna go. It went this way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the trick is you have to be able to write in such a way that you surprise people. You give them
Yeah.
things that are unexpected, but it's still something that they could have predicted. if they just picked up on some detail,
Yeah.
right? So when you do something that they're not expecting, it kind of shocks them. They go, "Whoa, wait,
Yeah.
what?"
And then you go back and you're like, oh yeah, okay, I see now. Okay, yeah,
And in a lot of cases, I think they get all the way to the end of the book
yeah,
without figuring it out. It's just like, man, something happened there. It was
yeah,
weird, but I liked it. And then they come and discuss it with other
yeah,
people. And no, go back and
yeah.
start
Listen to
over
this, and this is where it
and
goes.
listen to this point here,
Yeah.
and then come back and talk to us. And then a few minutes later, they'll you're maybe a few hours or days, they'll come back in and go,
Oh
dude.
yeah,
So
yeah. No,
I think that's the trick.
well, I just did Mountain Man there, and he had me screaming at the radio or at the stereo because he had the character doing something, and I was like, no, why are you doing that? And then it went a whole different way.
Yeah, again, Mountain Man is such a good one to go back to.
Yeah,
I know that a lot of people loved it, but now I think at this point it's old enough
yeah,
that people are kind of forgetting about that early series. And in my case, the original books
yeah.
from the first Mountain Man to oh, what was it? Was it called Halifax? No, Well Fed.
Well
Well
fed. Yeah,
Fed
yeah, yeah.
was Well Fed was in my mind kind of like the core
Yeah,
story
that's it.
because it tied up everything for Scott and Gus
Yeah,
both. And it got them to a good end point. It put them on an island
yeah,
somewhere. And you could tell that was a very specific end.
yeah.
And I was happy with that.
Yeah, I didn't know there
Uh,
was a fifth coming out till all of a sudden it started popping up on Facebook.
yeah. Then the Mountain Man prequel came.
Yeah. Well,
And
I like the
and I
hospital. Did you hear the hospital with Alice?
uh it was okay.
I liked it. I thought it was funny as
That no, I like it was, what it was good horror
yeah,
writing.
yeah,
And Blackmore he's more of a horror writer
yeah,
too. Like just having talked to the guy,
yeah,
that's kind of the stuff that he's interested in anyway. But uh, the hospital didn't really add to the
no,
character for me. And then the prequel, just personally, I'm not a fan of prequels
I haven't
because
done it. I haven't done it
I
yet.
it's fun.
Yeah,
I'll say that in my view, it adds nothing to Gus's
yeah,
character. It
and see,
informs him in no way, but it's fun.
yeah,
It's a fun story. And for people who enjoy Gus, it's Gus returned back to form. So we can listen to him be Gus, and
yeah.
that's very fun.
Oh, okay.
But again, it's like with a prequel. Well, before you have a prequel, you have a story, and a character has an arc,
Yeah,
right? And they start here, they end there. But then if you do a prequel, you have to have the character back where they started,
yeah, and then you got to
which
get them
means
to
that
that point where you started them beginning. Yeah,
if 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 that's something you can even do, right? A lot of times when we write a story about a person, that story is going to be the most interesting thing that ever happened to them in their life.
yeah,
So if you go back and do a prequel now, you can't really make it be a story that's bigger.
yeah, and you can't put them in
Than
peril because you know they survived it.
yes, I think it's a really tough nut to crack.
Yeah,
And I think the only reason to have a prequel is if it informs you more
yeah,
about who that character is. That's also dangerous though, because I don't want every little aspect of a character explained to me.
yeah. You want to
I
figure
don't
it out
like
a little bit.
prequels.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not a big fan
The
of
only
them. I that's probably why I never grabbed the prequel to Mountain Man because I always liked Gus where he was, like at that beginning
yeah,
part of book one.
and so like I think Mountain Man 5 is out now.
Yeah, I've already blown
And
through it.
I knew he was gonna do it a lot sooner than everybody else
Yeah.
because just chatting, and also he would post a little hint every once in a
Yeah.
while. Like if you follow him on Twitter,
Oh yeah.
he when I remembered it was coming, was he had taken a screenshot of his computer desktop, and right on there was a little like document icon that said MM5, and he
Oh,
just
you know what?
posted
I
that.
did see that. I did see that one. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I remember that.
and
Yeah.
And I think he even posted it with no explanation.
Yeah.
That might be wrong, but I just remember looking at that and going, "That's a great way to drum up interest. Nice
Yeah.
job."
Well, I'm waiting for Udo. Odo. How do you say him?
Udo,
Udo. Yeah, I'm
Udo.
waiting for that to see what that's like.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No,
Yeah, well,
I read that pretext you put in there, and I was like, hey, that sounds kind of cool. I wouldn't mind that.
yeah. Bob's supposed to be recording it right now.
Yeah. Is it out on
Eh,
ebook?
no,
Oh, okay.
no. The this is releases are going to be, I think, much more controlled now.
Yeah.
I used to put ebooks out way before audiobooks
Yeah.
were ready, just because in my case I would publish whenever and I didn't really care.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I'd look at the book and say, it's ready to go, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't really take anything else into consideration. And here it is, just put it up. And by the time Commune 2 had come out, the ebooks did okay.
Yeah.
It's like I said earlier, right? The audiobook and the ebook audience, they
Yeah.
don't really
They don't mesh. Yeah.
impact each other. Yeah, no. I think for most people in my spot, the audiobooks are what
Yeah.
earn them the money.
Yeah.
It's pretty rare now, I think, that people make the most of their income off of ebooks.
And I think it's because it's just society. It's an easier way to consume the book.
We're just so busy now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all so busy. Our lives are so busy. We have so many things demanding of our time.
Yeah.
Things that are important, things that are distractions. There are so many
It's the
entertainment.
it's the internet. It's just made life so
Yes.
much
Well,
more like oof.
so many entertainment outlets are competing for our
Yeah.
attention now. And I think that audiobooks are a natural progression of that. It's just another way to multitask.
And what's funny is when way back you got the old time radio shows. Like I've got XM in my truck, and I listen to the old time radio shows. Like
I love
yeah,
those old
like
shows,
The
man.
Shadow. My favorite's Gunsmoke. I'm a big Gunsmoke guy. William Conrad.
Okay.
Yeah.
I liked a lot of the comedies.
Oh,
Like
Burns and Allen.
I used to listen
Phil
I used
Silvers.
to listen to the Bickersons. I
Bickerson.
liked. There was
Oh
Amos and
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Andy.
What's the dude that has the fast car that drives like crazy? It's
Oh
a
God,
comedian. He's a kid in school, and I can't remember what he's called now. But yeah, there's
I
that
don't know.
one. Yeah, I just love the old time radio shows.
I liked the Bickersons just because Danny Thomas was always hilarious.
Yeah.
The the Bickersons, they would always get into like a fight, and the fight had the same kind of formula where it was that eventually the wife just went nuts and off the handle.
Yeah.
But whenever Danny Thomas showed up, he was kind of like the goofy neighbor, and that was when I really started enjoying. Oh man, but yeah, yes.
So
Wait,
that's the audiobooks are starting to come back, make a comeback type thing for that type of entertainment.
I don't know. I don't know if it's comeback versus if we've kind of gotten to a point now where they make the most sense.
Yeah, could be.
Cause well, I think there's also a convenience aspect
Yeah.
because when I was younger, first of all, audiobooks were looked down on
Yeah.
when I was a kid because everybody was very snobbish. Was and read the text.
Yes. You must read.
You know,
Yeah.
as if there's some asshole snob threshold that you have to pass before you're allowed to engage with the rest of people on
Well, I have
literature.
so much free time. I can read. I can sit
Yeah,
down and read.
but I think also that the art form has evolved as
Yeah.
well, and audiobooks are an art form.
Well, I always
They're
wondered,
a
do
performance.
some of the authors actually, when they're writing the book, do they go, is this for audio or am I doing this for the page? Because I'm pretty sure you'd have to do it a different way for audio than you would for a page.
I sure do.
Yeah,
I really think about that, and I think a lot of authors today
yeah,
do. I think that authors of the previous era did not,
yeah,
and it really depends on which author you're dealing with, and how comfortable they are breaking rules.
yeah,
Some writers are very strict about this is the proper way to write a story, and you don't stray from that because that's weak.
Yeah.
But then you can go into numerous Stephen King books, and arguably, I think he might be the biggest writer in the world.
Yeah.
I think Rowling had him topped at one point when she was in the middle
Yeah,
of
with
her
her
Harry
Harry
Potter
Potter, yeah.
series. But the thing is, she's not as prolific as King.
Yeah.
She didn't do a lot outside of that.
Yeah, and he
Or
was all
if she
over.
did, I mean, she wrote things that were not Harry Potter, but they never took off the way Potter did.
Yeah.
Whereas with King, it doesn't matter what he writes; it's going to be a hit.
Yeah.
And you know, if I'm looking at both of those guys as a model, I'd rather be a King writer than a Rowling writer. You know, even though she's got a shit zillion dollars,
Yeah.
King does too.
Yeah.
But King gets to write whatever he wants.
Yeah, he's all over the
And
place
I
with
don't
his books, which is good.
I don't I don't necessarily want to write like King, but I want to have that same kind of freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't want to get
But
pigeonholed. You get pigeonholed. This is what he writes, and that's it. And
yeah. But if you look getting back to my point
Yeah.
that I almost forgot I was making, uh, you can go into a lot of King books and you know he uses things like graffiti or signage in his stories
Yeah.
frequently to inform the reader of the world.
Yeah.
If you look at his Dark Tower books, he had this great practice of just putting signs that the characters would come across that tell you what the world used to be. Have you read the Dark Tower
No,
books?
no, I'm not a huge King fan because I'm not
Yeah.
a huge horror or in that style. I trying to think if I've read any of his books. I've seen some of the movies, but I don't
Can
think
I
I've read any of his books.
can I recommend a couple of his books to you?
Yeah,
Or
go for it, and I'll
I
try and squeeze them in.
given what I know of you,
Yeah,
okay, since we've become
yeah,
friends, I think you would like The Stand,
okay,
the unabridged version,
yeah,
and I think you would like the Dark Tower series.
okay,
And I'm not going to say too much about
yeah,
why, but you know, just
okay,
for coming from an author whose books you seem to enjoy,
yeah.
I recommend those stories to you.
They're
I think
okay.
you'd dig them.
They're okay.
Fair,
Yeah.
fair.
No, I'll give
But
them.
he
I'll check
he
them
would
out.
he would do that. He would take a sign.
Yeah.
The premise, very briefly, for Dark Tower is that there's this character Roland who's kind of a knight in his world,
Okay.
but it's very spaghetti western.
Oh,
In
okay.
fact, his character is almost a complete ripoff of the man with no name.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
but the character himself, you know, that's he's his own person.
Yeah.
When the book starts, he feels very much like the man with no name, but he develops. He becomes his own thing as the story progresses, and by the end of it, it's very hard to see him as the man with no name anymore.
Oh wow.
So that's good work on King's
Yeah.
part. But when it starts, it's like that, and he lives in a post-apocalyptic world.
Okay.
So he's a cowboy with six shooters,
Yeah.
who's also he's like the duke of a fallen kingdom,
Huh.
and he's just on this quest.
I
He's
might.
a knight on a quest.
I'll have to get that.
So as he travels through the world, he runs into things, and the world is like this desert wasteland.
Yeah.
It almost kind of starts out as Mad Max, like this
Oh, okay.
big fucking
Yeah.
desert. But then you know the world changes as he goes through. Like he gets to mountain regions, and there's forests. He ends up on a beach in the second book, and the world is really a character in this story. It's like it keeps finding ways to be beautiful
Oh yeah.
and interesting. But then there will be points as he's traveling through the world where he comes across a relic from this time where it's like they're always talking about the ancient ones or the old ones.
Yeah.
And as you go, you kind of realize that the ancient or old ones were us,
Oh okay.
kind of. But an alternate world us.
Yeah.
It's like Roland's world, I think, was Earth at some point, but it was Earth in an alternate reality from ours.
Okay.
And you know, King, he likes
Yeah.
to do multiple realities and multiverses and stuff. But those signs when he puts them in the book,
Yeah.
it's always presented as a graphic,
Oh, okay.
and it's something you'd have a really hard time narrating as an audiobook performer,
Yeah.
because the performer, all they can do is just read out
What it says.
the
Yeah.
the text on the sign, right? But you can't really present that in the book. It shows the metal plate that the sign's been printed on, and they
Oh,
go to the
so there's a
trouble to,
context to that plate that
yeah,
gives you the idea. Oh, hey, is that from us? Like,
they
okay, I see what you
they
mean.
go to the trouble to show screws
Yeah.
in the corners that it's holding it on. The font that they use for the plate is very specific,
Okay.
and just looking at the font gives you a feeling when you're reading it.
Yeah.
It's like when you're reading the old computer
Yeah,
font
that
from
would
the
be hard
80s, and you
to
know this is
train.
going to be a tech movie.
Yeah.
Or you come into other aspects where King also uses graffiti a lot in his stories.
Yeah.
Like somebody has written graffiti somewhere, and it's usually something that gives you a hint about what's going on. A lot of times, the graffiti is a cult symbol that it's people worshiping some entity, and it's just like this stylized drawing of an eye.
Oh, okay.
So when he gets to that in his book, he can't really describe that eye to you and have you get
The
the
gist,
idea of
yeah.
what it looks like. So what he actually does, like no shit, in the book he says they came across an eye that looks like this colon, and then there's a scribble of the eye in the book.
Oh, wow.
Now I ask you, how do you narrate
You
that?
can't. That,
You
yeah.
can't really do that, and I think King kind of wrote that before audiobooks had become as huge as
Yeah.
they are. Now, in my case, like that's the majority of my audience. I would never put something like that in one of my stories because I wouldn't want to subject a narrator to, well, how do I
Yeah,
perform
you
this? What do I
can't.
do?
Yeah. That's wow.
It's like the narrator almost has to break character, right? And says, okay, what the writer has put in the book is a very interesting stylized version of this eye. If you'd like to see what it looks like, go to
Yeah.
http://www.thiswritersucksass.com. Yeah, you
He's
know?
just made my life a living hell.
Yeah, so I think that is I think that must be a concern
Yeah.
now
I guess you would have to.
for the writers of today. Yeah, and I think about that a lot when I'm writing, especially when I'm doing my dialogue.
Yeah.
They tell you when you're looking at all the advice on this is what you do. They say don't feel bad about putting he said or she said on the end of a sentence. There's nothing wrong with using that, and use it as often as you want.
Yeah.
And the reason is because when somebody's just reading that in text,
Yeah.
your brain automatically tunes that out,
Yeah. I
and
hear
you
it
don't
once
see it
in a while.
anymore.
There was one book.
You hear it,
Yeah.
you hear it, you don't read it.
Yeah. No, but
You
there was a book series I was listening to and everything. He said, she said, he said, she said. And I was like, oh my god. But then after a
that's what I'm
while,
that's
yeah, you're like you said, it kind of you
well
tune
that
it out and you're like, okay,
that's the point I'm getting
yeah,
to though. When you're reading it, when it's
yeah,
text, when you're looking at it with your eyes, you see that he said, she said pattern.
yeah,
You don't quite read it. You don't say those words in your
yeah,
head the way you do the dialogue. You see it, you process it, you know what it means, but it doesn't break up the story.
yeah,
However, when that's translated into an audio context, eventually that's all the reader will hear,
yeah,
and they won't be able to stop hearing it. Some readers, I guess like yourself,
yeah,
are good in that they okay, I tune it out.
yeah,
But I have seen so many responses from other readers that have said, I could not get through this son of a bitch. It was just one long line of they said, I said, she said, he said.
yeah,
So when I'm writing, I'm really cognizant of that. And I go through all sorts of pains to limit my use of that. And I think it's actually made me a better writer
Well, you'd have to go with the
because,
flow so people would understand. Okay, that's the end of this guy's conversation. This is the start of this person's conversation, or part of it.
well, what I try to do is I try to write dialogue so that you can tell who's talking
Yeah,
without having to have that tag on the end of
yeah,
it. And it's like if you're going through commune, right? If somebody says yes at the end of the sentence, you probably know who that is.
yeah,
or if somebody's kind of, you know,
Well,
you in most cases you can tell Gibbs is talking
yeah.
without someone telling you that's
And
Gibbs
same
because
with
he just has a certain way he talks.
the way you did Jake, because he would put in yes or not. Was it yes?
That's what,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I was
And
saying. That
what else was there? Was another word he used to say at the end. I can't remember it now. I'd have to listen to it again. But you could
uh
tell when Jake was talking because just by the way his words were.
yeah,
And
it was kind of robotic when he
yeah,
was talking to people, and you could tell that he was somebody who would speak in a way that was designed to pull agreement,
yeah,
or he always kind of assumed
yeah.
agreement with what he was saying.
And this is why I don't
Um,
write. I could never do any of that. That's just beyond my.
you have to spend a lot of time agonizing over it,
Yeah,
and then you have to spend a lot of time practicing
yeah.
too. Like in the first book, like I think you can see the quality increase over time
Yeah.
in the Commune series because that series was really a process of me learning how to do this.
Well, everybody grows, right? Like, not only does the book
Yes,
do you grow with the book, but the author writing the book grows too because you learn more as you go.
yes, that's very true. But when I was doing the Communes, those are the first books I ever
Yeah.
wrote, and
You did nothing,
the
no writing of anything, like nothing. I'm not talking published, but you didn't do any writing before that?
well, I wrote creatively, but
Yeah.
never in that
Okay.
format. Like I would
Yeah.
I would do short stuff,
Yeah.
and then there were a few times where I tried to start writing a book, but uh, directionless.
Yeah.
I just sit down and start writing a thing, but I don't have a plan. I don't know what it is I'm trying to say,
Oh, yeah.
and eventually you just run out of steam doing
Yeah.
that, and you don't know where to take it anymore. You hit this wall. They call it writer's block,
Yeah.
but it's not actually writer's block. It's just lack of planning.
Yeah.
So
Paint yourself into a
it
corner
wasn't
sometimes.
until yeah, but I think even if you paint yourself into a corner, you just use your imagination a little and get yourself back out of it.
Yeah.
Or you go back and fix whatever got you into a corner in the
Yeah,
first
that's true.
place.
I guess you could do that
You
because
know,
in a book, yeah, you just go, okay, we'll go back here.
that's one of the hardest things I think for any new writer to accept is the fact that you may write the thing, but it's not done yet. Now you got to go back and fix it
Yeah.
because the first thing you wrote is not going to be correct. I mean, it'll be a little correct,
Yeah.
but you've really got to go back and refine it and make sure that everything is firing on all 8 cylinders.
Yeah.
And I think there are clear portions in the first Commune book where I should have gone back and touched it up some more.
Yeah.
I should have taken another pass on it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't try to go back and fix it now because
It's
it's out there. It's out there, and a lot of people really liked it.
yeah.
So I wouldn't want to go back and special edition the thing like a George Lucas and
Oh God. Well,
put
even Orson,
CGI eyes on the
what's his
Ewoks.
name?
Or
Orson Scott Card. He's changed Ender's Game a few times. He's changed it up.
oh, has
Yeah,
he?
because from the original version to what we've got now, he's changed it because there are special editions of that version of that book out.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think in my case, I believe that once the book is out there,
Yeah.
once you've put it out
It's
there,
there.
you're not you're not allowed to mess with it
Yeah.
anymore because it doesn't belong to you anymore.
Yeah.
Once it's out there and people have grabbed it, and if they've connected with it, then that's what it
Yeah.
is. You just got to leave it there
Well,
because if you start messing with it, man, you're going to piss people off. It's there's really no way to win at that
no.
game.
And even if you've got some little errors, I overlook a lot of stuff because you enjoy the story. Okay, there might be a little error here. Who cares? Like the whole story on its own is great, so why bother?
I'm less worried about errors in my case and
Yeah.
just more about execution. There's
Okay.
there's parts in that first book that are clunky.
Yeah.
There are. You get to the second book and I think it's a little bit more refined.
See, and I guess that's the
Um,
writer because I'm not a writer, so I probably wouldn't even really pick up on it.
well, yeah, if we we could sit down with the thing
Yeah.
like side by side and I could pull out passages in that book and say, "Well, here, look at this."
Yeah.
And then just kind of describe
Yeah.
to you why I think it should be
Yeah, and
kind
then
of
I
touched
probably
up
would
and
see it
fixed.
then. Yeah.
And I think you'd agree, but yeah, I think I lucked out. And most people don't know how to look for that stuff.
Yeah.
They do know that something's not working for them, but it's hard to articulate why.
Yeah.
And I think the process of being good at this stuff
Uh-huh.
is learning how to articulate or identify
Yeah.
what's not working and how to fix it. That's a huge component.
Yeah.
Is going back and understanding, and it's understanding technique and mechanics rather than story's interesting, character is good. It's like, okay, yeah, but I can I can it's like woodworking,
Yeah.
right?
You
I
can
can I can rough
refine it and smooth it out a little more. Yeah.
I can rough cut a piece of wood,
Yeah.
and it might look pretty, but it might also have a shit ton of splinters in it, and if you rub your hand over it, it's going to
Oh,
suck.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Or I can start at a 60 grit sandpaper and smooth it down,
Yeah.
and I can keep going all the way down to 2000 grit
Yeah.
until it feels like glass.
Yeah.
And there's a balance. There's a difference between I can refine this more versus it's got to be done.
Yeah.
The the problem is that the book is actually never done. There's just a point where you stop fixing it
Yeah.
and you send it out. And I think the you start to master writing when you get a better idea of where that point
Yeah.
is. Knowing, okay, I should refine it more. Okay, now I'm done. Now it doesn't need it anymore. Put it out there. You're gonna turn it into something that it wasn't supposed to be
Yeah.
if you keep at it.
Huh.
And so, like, when I was writing those commune books, the whole time I was doing that, my the thing that I kept thinking about in my head was, am I going to pull this off? Can I do this,
Yeah.
or am I going to screw this up? Am I going to is it? And I think the only thing that saved me, because I think I did pull it off. There's a lot of people that say no, 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 it went the wrong way. It sucked.
Yeah.
But the reviews for the series as a whole are overwhelmingly favorable.
Yeah.
So I can look at the people that say I didn't like it and just kind of let them go
Yeah.
because you're never gonna
Well,
get 100%
you can't
approval of
please
anything.
everybody, right?
That's right, and you have to accept that. You just have
Yeah.
to get over it and say, yeah, there's going to be people that hate it, and I don't care. But the only thing that saved me, I think, was that I had a vision for what the thing was going to be at the start. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
It's like I know what the end game for
You
this thing
knew you had a
is, and
direction as to where I want to end up type thing. Okay.
yes, there was a plan.
Yeah.
There was a plan the whole time of what I wanted the story to turn
A
into.
method to the madness.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you absolutely have to have
Yeah.
that. Some writers can just go by the seat of their pants
Wow.
and still come up with some good stuff, but I think that there's more danger of the story turning into a meandering mess if you do that. And I think that leaves a lot more to chance than I would prefer.
Well,
I'm an
I
engineer.
think
I would like to engineer something.
with audiobooks too, there's more of a thing of a series. Like back, you used to write one book and that was your book, and then you moved on to the next of a different style. Nowadays, with the audiobooks, a lot of people expect there to be more than just one book. We want, like, people want more about those characters than just the one book.
Yes, but I think that is also that's also an indicator of how media in general has
Yeah.
changed. Because that's how movies used to be too,
Yeah.
right? It used to be like in the 70s and 80s, it used to be a movie would come
Yeah.
out
You got one movie, that was it.
and the star
Yeah.
in the film was what brought people into the movie theater. And that movie star was what you sold the movie on.
Yeah.
And movie stars don't exist anymore. They don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess
It's franchises exist
it's
and
the name
shared
of the
universes
franchise. Yeah.
exist. It's the name of the brand. It's
Yeah.
the name of the property or the product that pulls people in. So everybody goes to see Robert Downey Jr. be Iron Man,
Yeah.
and he makes an ass load of money.
Yep.
Then he goes and makes a movie called Doctor Doolittle, and it
Bombs.
bombs
Yeah. Yeah.
terribly.
Because it wasn't him;
And
it was the
and
character. Yeah.
nothing against that movie. I haven't seen
Yeah.
it, but what I do know is that they spent an exorbitant amount of money on Doctor
Oh
Doolittle.
wow.
It was like what did I it was like 160 170 million dollars to
On
make that
Doctor
movie.
Doolittle?
Yeah.
Holy moly.
everything is like huge money now. It's they're spending insane amounts of money to make these movies, and I think I could tab out and pull
Yeah.
a but I'm not going to
No.
bother. But
That's
if I
nuts.
just read this yesterday, but I think that I think they spent like 160 170 million to make it, and I think its opening weekend it only made like 22
Oh man, that's not good.
and then after the opening weekend your money just kind of
Yeah,
tapers
because the
off.
first people have seen it and they're like, "Yep, it's not that good."
Yeah, so
Wow.
Robert Downey Jr. at the apex of Marvel, right
Yeah.
at Endgame, arguably the biggest, most bankable performer in Hollywood.
Yeah. I
Then he goes and bombs that hard. That tells you something about where the industry is,
yeah.
right? It's more about the franchise, the product,
Then the
the
person.
brand
Yeah.
is the thing that's bringing him in now, not the person. And I wonder if we're going that way with writing too.
Oh man, I hope not.
Well, yeah, but I wonder
Yeah.
because people are uh, they're strapped for time, like we say, and I think people are more likely to get the thing that is comfortable because they know ahead of time that they're going to like it.
Yeah. Well, I
You know,
enjoyed
credits
this, so it's
credits
got to be good because it's a continuation of that. Yeah.
credits are
Oh
expensive.
yeah.
Audiobooks are
Try
expensive.
being Canadian.
Oh,
I gotta buy it in U.S. It's crazy.
I don't. I wonder if I could be Canadian.
I don't know.
I I don't know. I'd have to
You'd have to
I'd
give
have to get used to saying
a.
I'd have to get used to saying about
Yeah.
differently.
What is it?
I'd have to
House.
say well no say
House and
the
about.
say
I'll get my
about
Canadian accent going because I've been
okay.
in the States so much. I kind of it's kind
Oh
of gone away. Let's see. About house
no no you got
dollar.
to
I
say a
get a
boot
boot, and then there's
a boot
there's
and sorry.
we say dollar differently.
Oh
Yeah,
really?
I've had people say you say dollar differently, and I'm like okay, but I don't know if I say it anymore
It
because
just
I've
it just sounds like you're saying
yeah
dollar, man.
I've been in the States so much I've kind of picked up the I've a mix of accents from all around, and I also find
Yeah.
that I when I'm whoever I'm talking to I kind of pick up their accent and I start using their accent.
I think that's
Yeah,
just human.
yeah.
I remember being a little kid. I watched a lot of Michael J. Fox
Oh
movies
yeah, yeah,
as a young kid, and I always remember it because when he said sorry, it was like
yeah.
really,
Oh yeah.
like that was the one word he couldn't get away from saying, like a Canadian.
Sorry.
So he was always saying sorry,
Yeah,
and I remember asking my mom like, why does he say sorry so
yeah.
weird?
Well,
I didn't
see where I
I didn't realize
live,
he spoke English. He's obviously from America. It's little kid.
I've got we've got the Buffalo feed, we get the Detroit feed for news and TV and
Mm.
all that stuff. And they didn't have accents on the news. I never noticed it. And then as a kid,
Oh
we
yeah,
went into the States. We drove to Florida and we got down to like Tennessee and that. And I was like, these people talk differently. What's with
they
these?
they,
Uh,
they talk
yeah,
funny.
their accents. And then I remember in '83 we went to Boston and I heard that accent, the bear left, the hanger right, and I was like,
Yeah,
where's their R's? They're not saying R's. What the?
yeah. Yeah, I remember the
Yep,
first time I went to another part of America where the accents were totally
yep,
different, and I remember how weird I
yeah.
felt. It was like I remember telling my dad like it feels like I'm in another country right now. This is so strange. And he was like, "Yeah, but we're from California. They think we're all
Yep.
nuts, so
That's
it's
true.
even."
Yeah. No, it's just it's good. But yeah, the just the audiobooks they just it's a
Well,
different thing.
what I was kind of coming around to it was I'm kind of wondering if we're going to find at some point in books that it's not really the writer
Yeah.
that's the draw, but rather the the
So,
the
so
brand or
like
the franchise
Commune
itself.
16's coming out. All right, but it's not done by you, it's done by somebody else and nobody really cares cuz it's Commune.
And I
Yeah.
and I'm seeing that in some places. Like I've seen writers that I know right now that have taken their universe that they created and they're licensing it out to other
Oh,
writers because
wow.
it's like well people want more content
Yeah.
from this world, but I don't want to write it anymore. But somebody else will do it,
Oh
and
wow.
I'll split the money with them.
Huh.
It doesn't really sound like something I'd want to do because I'm a control freak.
Yeah.
I think there were some really big names. I think oh crap, the guy who wrote all those Rainbow Six Seal books.
Oh, Tom Clancy.
I don't remember his Clancy. I think Clancy does that now. I think there's a lot of people that are just like writing Clancy
Huh.
books and they're putting Tom Clancy's name on it, but he's not actually
Wow.
writing it. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I
I
don't
think
know.
I heard that somewhere.
I I
I would
never
I
really
would
read any
I
of his
wouldn't want to trash
books.
talk the guy.
I played his video games or the video games from Tom Clancy, Rainbow Six and that, and
Yeah, they were fun.
and the Jack Ryan stuff. But yeah, I've never been into the big military books. Like I don't mind them. I just never.
They're fun,
Yeah.
but there's got to be something
Yeah.
more there for me.
Like I think the one
Uh,
military book that sticks out for me, it's old. It's called Day of the Cheetah, and it was about the Russians stealing this experimental jet from America that used waves to control it. And this it
cool.
was about a American trying to get it back. And there was Day of the Cheetah 1 and 2, and the one before that was about some B-52 that they'd strengthened, and it was like a missile platform of launching
Huh.
stuff.
Okay.
It was that's from the 80s, and that was about the most military book I ever got into.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I don't know. I'm when I think about that, like brands
yeah,
becoming the point. Uh, I don't know what I think about that right now. I don't know if that's something that makes me nervous or if
you
it's
just
just
made me
something
think
where you
about it.
think, oh,
The Star Trek
y-
novels. I used to read the Star
oh,
Trek novels, but they're different authors. It's not always the same author.
yeah, you don't really this Star Wars books,
Yeah,
the expanded universe, they were the same way.
yeah,
And every once in a while you got a writer that everybody like Timothy Zahn is somebody
yeah,
that people keep bringing up again. But I think it was because his Thrawn trilogy was good. It was well done. Um, that doesn't mean you're going to get the same level of quality in every
yeah.
book within that
Oh yeah, there
universe.
was some Star Trek. Like I was big into the Star Trek novels when I was younger and that,
Yes.
and because I had to read, but I could read whatever I wanted. That was the deal I had with
Yeah.
my parents. So I always used to go to the library and get all the Star Trek novels. And
Parents like
yeah,
that are great
yeah,
too.
that was
They're
the
wonderful.
only
My
thing
my
I could.
parents were like
That
that.
was the only concession I got. So I just read all the Star Trek novels, and yeah, that was my big thing for books.
With my parents, they didn't even care if they were comic
Yeah,
books. As
just
long as
read.
there were
Yeah.
words that I was reading, they were good
Oh,
with
that's
it.
cool.
I
Yeah,
think that's the way you got to
yeah.
be as a parent. It's like, my father-in-law was trying to get his son into to read
Yeah.
more. And it was funny because uh, he is a very self-improvement minded person.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like I said, he was a truck driver.
Yeah.
So which means actually counterintuitively he's well read. he know, he knows a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. But he got really big into books about finance and
Oh,
managing
okay. Yeah.
finance. I think I think drivers in some cases that maybe they get hooked up with a bad outfit like a Swift or
Oh,
something,
yeah.
and then it's
Yeah.
like oh man, well maybe you're not doing so well. Hey, come drive over
Yeah.
here. But I think like if you're driving for Walmart or some of these other companies, you actually get paid really
Yeah.
well. You get a good living, and he does. He makes a good
Yeah.
living driving a truck. But it was funny. He came when he was younger. He came from a hard neighborhood. He grew up in Oakland.
Okay.
Black kid. I don't. His father wasn't around. Raised a lot by surrogates in his
Yeah.
family. Sister, mother, that kind of thing. And it was really important to him to have like the stable house with his kids
Okay.
and make sure that they had the things that he didn't have access to, like
That's
parents
pretty
do.
cool that he could do that. That he saw that and he wanted to do that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he was somebody that got out of the ghetto, and he started becoming interesting in that. Like, how do I retire comfortably?
Yeah.
How do I get my finances in order so that I'm going to be able to have the life that I want to
Yeah.
have? And so those were the kind of books that he was trying to get his son to read, but his son was young.
Yeah, he didn't want it. Yeah.
And it was kind of like this disconnect, and it was funny because of the struggle my father-in-law had growing up. He never understood things like video games, like distractive
Yeah.
pursuits, and he always thought they were a waste of time. But my brother-in-law always loved video games, and like he and I would connect
Yeah.
because I was a video game person myself. So like I'm talking to my then at the time fiance, now my wife. And he was like, oh, he's trying to get the kid to read, and the kid doesn't like it. Oh, well, that's a shame. What book did he give him? It's like I think it was like Rich Dad Poor Dad, or it's like How to
Oh
Start an
yeah.
LLC or something. And I was like, well, he's 12 or 13. Of course he doesn't want to read that. So I dug up my old Dragonlance books
Oh okay. Yeah.
because I knew the kid would read his ass off because he had to read all the instruction books to figure out all the video games. So it's not like there was a comprehension problem;
Yeah.
it was an interest
Yeah.
problem. So I just got these Dragonlance books and I said, here, uh, if you're bored sometime, you don't have anything to do, try this, because that's about the age range
Yeah.
that they are, man. It's like
Oh yeah.
right in that pocket. And yeah, a few months later, I was like, "Hey, did you check out those books?" And he was like, "They were good."
You got any
So
more? Yeah.
yeah, I think you really must. If you're trying to get your child or a family member interested in reading, you really have to throw everything you
Yeah.
can at them. You can't try to limit what they're going to be
Yep.
exposed to. It's like, hey man, go for it. Get out there. Probably as long as it's not hardcore porn,
Yeah, you're doing okay.
let
Yeah.
them get out there and see what's out
Yeah. I
there.
used to just get dropped off at the library, and I'd just go nuts in the library, find stuff to read.
Man, you remember
Oh
libraries?
yeah. Hell, I used to
I
have
remember.
the Encyclopedia Britannica set. My mom got
Oh
that,
yeah,
and
I had
that was my
I had the
internet.
World Book.
The what?
Yeah, yeah. The World Book
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Encyclopedia. Yeah, man. She spent. I did so many book reports out of the World Book
Yeah.
Encyclopedia. Well, not book reports, but just reports in general. And it was funny. She must have spent a lot of money, my
Oh
mom,
yeah.
on getting those. Those were
Oh yeah.
expensive, man. And if you went through all the volumes, you'd find whole sections of text that just had like underlines on it because it was stuff that I was basically just lifting out and putting into a
Oh
report.
wow.
So
Yeah.
as you know, as a lazy kid who wasn't very academic, the idea was, well, I'm going to take this paragraph and I'm just going to change some words, and that makes it not plagiarism, rather than putting down my own thought. And I think the teachers must have known what I was
Yeah.
doing, but
Yeah.
they didn't
Yeah.
care.
Oh, those were the days. That was pre-internet, but
Yeah, back in the day.
yeah. So
Well, I think this is pretty
yeah.
good. I think we've talked about like a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. And
It's been fun. I had a good time.
this is it's been an interesting
Yeah.
discussion for me, and I think other the keystroke medium people, I think there's some I think there's useful information in there
Yeah.
for people who are trying to write.
Yeah.
I love talking to the audience,
Yes.
trying to figure out what things are they looking
Yeah.
for.
What interests
Let,
you? And
let,
stuff.
let me ask you this
Okay.
before we finish
Yeah.
up. You're the thing that you're looking for in a book. We've kind of discussed that. It's like you're very open,
Yeah.
right? You're willing to check out
I'll
anything.
check out anything. The only
Yes.
stuff I don't really get into is the sword and sorcery stuff. I just
Okay.
can't. I tried. I just can't get into that stuff.
Do you know why that
I
is?
just
Like,
don't like.
what is it for you that it's missing?
I just don't like it. It's old. I like new. I like modern, and I like
Oh, okay.
contemporary. I don't. I'm not that big into the sword, sorcery, dragon. That's why I never got into Game of Thrones. Sorry, I just couldn't get into it.
Oh
Yeah,
no, that's
yeah.
fine.
I tried
That's
watching it. It was
fine.
like, yeah, no, this isn't for me.
Okay. I mean, does it have to do with the? Hmm.
I think it's the technology stuff. I'm a big tech nerd. I love tech.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of
Yeah,
thinking like when you're dealing with fantasy,
yeah,
the magic
yeah.
in the story, that's
Yeah,
technology.
it's just we just don't know. We
That's
don't
that's
understand it.
their
That's why we call it magic.
and I'm wondering if that's a component in
Eh,
in you not being able to get on board. It's just that, well, this all everything in this book is magic. The rules are not well
Yeah.
defined. Therefore, I can't really swallow any of this. Is that a piece of it, or is it
I
really
don't know.
just the fact that you've seen so much swords and sandals you don't give a
Yeah,
shit
it could
anymore?
be that. I just couldn't. I've never been able to get into that stuff. Even as a kid, I just didn't like it. I don't know why.
Just didn't scratch your
Yeah, it
itch.
just wasn't my cup of tea.
Okay.
So I like the contemporary like stuff about anything to do with our modern time or future.
Okay. Can you think of any book or series that you've read where something happened in the story that just broke the story for you at a point where it's like, oh fuck,
I
I'm not
just
finishing this. I've had
I
enough.
just read I just listened to one. I didn't even finish it. I stopped it at that point. Um,
Okay. Hold
yeah.
on a second. But before we say who the writer
Oh,
is
I
or
can't even
what that
remember. I
series,
can't remember it. It was
okay,
given to
yeah,
me.
it's like
Yeah.
okay, I don't
Yeah.
like I don't want
No,
to
I would
like
never.
shit
Yeah,
on a writer,
I
but
just it just got to a point. Something happened with the character, and I was like, "You're kidding me," and I was just like,
so
"That's it."
can we talk about what that was? I'd be interested to see what it was that
It
broke it
was
for you.
it was an RPG style book, like an actual role playing game book where the characters had
Sure.
levels and stuff like that, and I loved it. It was like, oh
I think they call that lit
yeah,
RPG,
and
in
it was
fact.
awesome. I was like, wow, this is a cool genre. I didn't even know it existed. So I was listening to the book, and it was going and going and going, and I was a little bit lost because the character starts off at a weird spot, and it's like, okay, but I went with it, and I was like, okay, I'm getting into it, and then they changed the character on how they were for power wise, and some stuff happened to the character that I was like, you're kidding me, right? And then I was just
You mean
I don't want to give it away because it's kind of like a plot twist in the book.
okay, but we can
Yeah.
generalize. Does the character suddenly become
No,
overpowered
the
or
character turns from like being unknowing what's going on to all of a sudden understanding everything and having some powers that he didn't realize he had done to him. Like I don't know how to explain it without ruining the book because it's actually a pretty deep thing in the book. It's
yeah?
it's just something was changed in him like his body wise. And
Too abrupt? Was it just too
it
abrupt?
was kind of abrupt, but it was also just like I just was like, really? Everybody else is doing it a different way than him, but because he's got this something's done to him, he can do it differently. And it's like
Okay.
I just like, nah, I can't do this anymore. And I just stopped the book right there, and I never went back to it.
Okay. Well, so let me ask
It was just a change
the
in the character that would make him that I don't know how to explain how it ruined it for me. Like it was just like one of those really you're doing that, and it just I just like no, I can't do this.
well, was it something that you'd seen many times before, like a cliched character
No, it
turn,
wasn't a
or
cliche. It was just like it was almost like they
oh
needed
fuck, you know what?
they.
Just say what
All
happened. I
right,
don't give a
okay.
shit.
It was
If somebody
they
figures
had
out who the
these
writer is or
yeah.
what the series is, but I need some
I don't want to
clarity.
bash him because it was
Explain.
a good story up until this point, and it just turned me off.
I get it.
The character they
That's
use
okay.
crystals, and they're different level crystals to give them magic and stuff, and each crystal color was a
Okay.
different thing. So everybody had to have crystals like in rings or amulets or they're stored or whatever. And this
All
kid
right.
was changed where his arms had the crystals built in. He had robotic arms that had the crystals built in. And he could just by thinking do stuff. He didn't need to have a ring, an amulet, or a sword. He just had these crystals built into him.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, it kind of turned me off from it because like, come on, everybody else has to have rings in that, and nobody started doing this before.
Okay. So all right.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying. So really, what you had was a technological
yeah,
advancement that was not earned,
yeah. It was just kind of,
or it
and he didn't even know he had it
or
done
it
to him.
broke
He just,
it broke the rules that had already been
yeah,
established.
yeah,
Right.
and it just,
Yeah. See that.
and it turned me off, and I was like, damn it, because I really liked the story up until that point, and it was like, I don't know if I can get past this.
See that right
Yeah,
there for me. That's when I talk about
yeah,
pattern. That's exactly
yeah,
what I talk about. What happened for you was there was a specific pattern that was broken
yeah,
in that story. You'd you'd been presented with a set of rules that told you this is how the world
yeah,
works. This is everything,
yeah,
right? And then at some point, because for for whatever narrative reason,
yeah,
like the character needs to evolve in some way that I would assume that the point was to make him
Yeah.
special, to make him more special than those around him. But if you do it in such a way that breaks the rules that
Yeah.
have already been established in the book, I think that breaks the book for a
They
lot
were
of
doing a
readers.
lead up where experiments were being done on other people, and they were finding these freaks that had been experimented on, and they only had like one specific power. And then all of a
Hmm.
sudden, boom, we get this character that he discovers things have been changed on him that he didn't know had been changed. But then he
Mm.
knew how to use everything right away, and it's like, oh man,
So, oh,
yeah,
somebody's coming down to say, what are you doing
yeah,
right now?
no, they know what I'm
Uh,
doing. You can edit that out.
well, yeah, I think that must be what it
Yeah,
is in that case for you
yeah,
is really just that the things that happened in the story that kind of violated what you'd been given to understand the world was
yeah.
already. And then see, now that's my garage going off
Oh,
right now, if you can hear
yeah,
it.
I can hear it. Mine
Uh,
does the same.
this, every time I'm on here talking
Yeah,
to someone, the garage goes at least once. Wonderful. So, yeah, and then, well, what the hell was I
and
saying?
breaking a character.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that it also probably made the character a little too overpowered
Yeah,
for what you'd considered. And I think, when you make the character overpowered, they become kind of like
yeah,
Superman, and now it's really hard for you to feel tension about
yeah.
anything.
I just
I I, I think the main thing is that progression for characters has to be
and
gradual
earned.
and
Yeah,
earned. Yes, it has to be something that you've been building to. It has to be something that's allowed
yeah.
within the rules that are already established. I can think of an example in Star Wars that matches kind of what you said,
Okay.
and it was Last Jedi. When you
I've seen.
have you seen the Star
I
Wars
haven't
movies?
seen the very last one, whatever this Rise of Skywalker.
Okay,
That one I haven't gotten to
yeah,
see.
yeah.
I'll wait till it's on Disney Plus.
Well, if you remember Last Jedi, there was the point where they turned the ship around and light
Uh
speeded
huh.
through that
Oh, dude, don't
armada.
get me started on that.
And well, I don't want to start ripping that
Yeah,
apart because I've ripped it apart
yeah,
enough. But I think that scene in itself, in isolation, is amazing. It's a
yeah,
really well done
yeah,
shot, composed very well. But we've got like all these movies before that point where that never
yeah,
happened. So the first thing you want to know is, well, how come nobody's done this before? It seems very
yeah,
effective. Wait a minute. Why don't we have just a drone
yeah.
ship that nobody's controlling, and that's now our weapon?
You could have got rid of the Death
If
Star
it's
that way.
that
Yeah,
effective,
you,
yes, and it breaks all the rules that were established
yeah,
before that point. I think that's a cardinal
yeah,
sin for readers, even if they can't articulate why that
yeah.
is. It's like you've broken the world. I can't accept it
Nope,
now.
I know. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That seems to be a recurring theme because like that's a question that I like to ask
yeah,
a lot when I'm talking to people. They just consume story.
yeah,
So what breaks it for you? And it's always that. It's always something that violates
preset rules.
the person's
Yeah,
understanding. The person's understanding of that. Like, okay, I get it.
yeah,
I understand this world. No, you don't.
yep. I'm gonna
And
change it.
and the reason you don't understand it is like for no reason at
Yeah,
all.
I needed to
It's just
change the
because.
character's way, so here we go. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Okay. I gotta get off.
I gotta get going.
I gotta start my day. I think you do too. But listen, thank you
Oh
very
yeah,
much
no
for this.
thanks. I haven't enjoyed this.